And we're live.
Alright.
Yeah, ready?
Ouch, you are
Ooh.
not ready.
No.
Whoops, I was just starting up a 707 in a flight sim. Sorry about that.
Ooh.
It's a little painful.
That's a little hot.
Well, Wayland is working finally with Fedora.
Can you adjust your microphone?
How much
A lot.
now?
No, it needs turned down some more.
How about now?
It's better. Are you using a different microphone? Because that one sounds like garbage.
No, I'm on a different setup.
Yeah, it's very loud and getting a lot of background noise.
Make some adjustments here. Try that out, see how it looks. Not bad. Okay, that's weird. Can you say something real quick? I'm going to check the audio levels coming through OBS.
Everything sounding good?
Yeah, everything looks good on OBS.
Okay. Is Norbert coming today?
Yeah, he said he was.
Okay.
Are you going to be on the next show?
Me, yeah, I'll be here.
Okay. Well, Nishant is going to be running the innards on next show because he's going to be going over LPIC.
Oh, right. Okay. Is he still there? Nishant? Tony said he won't be here today, right?
Right.
Okay.
He'll probably be on the next week's show, though. Do we have any interesting news?
I think the new Linux Mint blog did go up. There wasn't a lot to it this time around, it didn't seem, though.
There's Norbert.
Yep. Isn't it?
Oh, another hot mic.
Yep. 1 second.
fixed.
Much better.
Isn't are you changing the clocks tomorrow?
Tonight,
Oh, when? Because I was confused. I thought it was still 1 hour until the stream.
nope.
Oh.
It's 2 p.m.
But and the way we do it is we change the clocks on early Sunday morning. So it's supposed to be when it would have been 3 a.m. on Sunday. Went back to 2.
Yeah, they
But
do it that
you
way to prevent affecting the bars. They don't want to give people an extra hour to drink or cut them off by an hour.
So when exactly do you change the clocks?
Like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I think it's
Yes, but
3 a.m. At 3 a.m.
yes,
it
but
goes
last
back
night.
to 2 a.m.
Yeah, but last night or tonight.
That'll be tonight.
Oh, but then there should be still 1 hour until. No. Oh,
Tonight,
okay.
as in
Yes.
12 hours from now, 13 hours from now, we'll change the clocks back.
Okay. I was just confused then because it's okay. I was just confused.
Okay.
Are we live?
I believe so.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Yep. No.
Wait. Okay, so the way the global muting wasn't working with Pipeware on Arch, so I thought maybe if I tried it on Fedora, which is Pipeware by default, it would work, but it doesn't work.
Are you using a laptop?
So yeah,
It might be just global muting the internal mic of the laptop, and you might have to tweak the settings a little bit to get it to mute your headset mic, or whichever mic you're using.
yeah, the Lego one. Where would I do that? By view control?
Hold on. No, you got to talk to this one guy. What's his name? Joe.
Yes, I'm talking
Hold
to him.
on. I got to find my notes on it, man. Okay, I don't have the custom shortcuts on here because it just works on this one. I think it's on my laptop inside, but that's not helpful. Standard notes. Let's see if I put it in there.
Oh, so I changed my microphone, the input device in Discord. But if I look at the system settings, it's still
Oh, it's still listing the other mic as your primary.
yes.
So if you switch your primary on the system, it might do it. Instead of me having to dig up these 5-year-old notes.
Okay, it works.
Awesome.
For some reason, I'm only getting audio on the right side of my headset.
Time to bust out the soldering iron.
that old pine tool, right, Joe?
Yep. Although mine's on the kitchen table right now because I worked on a Xbox 360 with my son, and it was cold in my garage.
How'd that go?
Went great.
Good.
It works now.
Very good. Wait, it's cold in Texas? Come on now. Everyone knows it's always hot in Texas.
It was like 38.
Yeah, it's pretty cold.
It's a little chilly. Especially for a guy that spent like 20 years in the desert.
No.
Okay, I was only getting audio on the right side because I accidentally slid the thing in the settings.
Aw, no soldering iron for you.
Are you with us, Nishan?
He's on. He was working on his audio. It really sounded bad. It was worse than yours when you first got on.
Mhm.
The hell is Omaze? Why are they sending me emails? Oh. Anybody keeping an eye on cryptocurrencies?
Nope.
No, although I heard a guy yesterday, actually one of our mechanics from work, he does, was it Shiba Inu, the same one that you do, Joe?
Yeah.
And I guess he had a little panic and decided to sell.
Yeah.
And he was telling me his girlfriend stayed in it, and the next day it went up like 300%, so she was giving him quite a ribbing.
Well, it dropped significantly over the last week. I mean, it cut down to like 50% of its high, a little under 50% of its high. But it's creeping back up again, and I kind of bought some more, or well, moved some more around from other currencies into SHIB while it was low again. So
You just got to ride the roller coaster, I suppose.
yeah, well, there's no real predicting with cryptocurrency.
Is it working now?
It's better. It's not great or anything.
Okay.
Do we have any listeners? Let me go check. Oh, no. Oh, Londoner's on, and Mark.
All right. Howdy, fellas.
So, how is everything going the past week?
Well, I was on vacation this whole week, but I was extremely sick for basically all of it, so kind of a wasted vacation.
What about you, Josh?
Well, everything's been okay. Just, yeah, a lot of overtime at work, and I've got a construction zone in my house still, so we're waiting to get the finishing touches put on. And then I'm going to be making a lot of runs to the dump in the pickup, hauling all the old bathroom out of my backyard.
Well, they don't take
Which
that with
pickup
them
are
when
you
they
driving?
leave?
No, this is a friend that's doing this for us, so, and I work for the local waste company, so I get a discounted rate to haul. So I'll be doing it myself.
What about you, Norbert?
Now we can't hear you, Norbert. You left your mute on.
Yep. Yeah. At least it works. I haven't been up to that much. Other than trying to get familiar with the field where I'm going to be writing my thesis in.
So pretty busy, I'd assume.
Not really. It's been sort of a not kind of a slow week, interestingly.
Oh, that's good.
Now that I started studying for certification, now I realize how big Linux is. It's just not the kernel, it's not the grub or the BIOS or the init system which it uses. It's a combination of all these, the architecture.
Technically, it's just the kernel.
Okay, but
What's
it's
your-
like BIOS, master bootloader, grub, kernel, then the init system, then the GUI which we see on our computers.
It's like
right,
when I
all your user land.
It's like when I started my first year as university, we had to take organic chemistry classes, and it was literally nothing like organic chemistry in school. So it was school subjects didn't scratch the surface. When you have to like explain when there's this molecule and that molecule, and they get into a reaction and they form something else, but then you would have to be able to explain how and why that happens, and when and where exactly that the other molecule attacks, so to speak. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. I should try to do Linux from scratch at one point.
Everybody should try it and then give up on it.
I was thinking of trying, but I got intimidated by just the book which they provide.
How long is it?
I didn't check that exactly, maybe 100 pages or so, but let me check.
I think there's probably a little bit of a hierarchy. Maybe the archway first, and then maybe Gentoo before you go LFS.
Yeah, I conquered
Actually,
Arch.
LFS makes you compile everything individually, I think.
Yeah. Nope, I'll sit here on Cinnamon that just and Mint just does it all for you. Lazy.
Yeah. I managed to conquer Arch and Void. I also tried Bedrock Linux, which doesn't really seem to be that practical. You can basically have multiple distros
Package 100, right?
Yes, but no, basically it downloads the base system for multiple distros, and they are separated in folders, and each distro sees its own directory as its own root, and so you can have multiple. It's not like because you could theoretically install Pacman on Void and Void's package manager on Arch, but this way it's more separated, but it seems slow because I turn my Void install. The Void install into Bedrock, and I installed Debian on it, and I tried installing stuff with the app and it worked. For example, I installed the Brave browser, which doesn't have a native package for Void, but there were two things. App seemed to work very slowly, and when the app was installed, it didn't have an icon, which I guess could be fixed with a desktop file or something. So it wasn't perfectly seamless, but I'm not sure if it would be practical for everyday use.
Yeah.
So the next...
That seems more like Tinkerer.
So the next peak to summit would be Gentoo, I guess. And then, but I want to try it for the experience, but I don't really have any intention of using it because I know some people like to have maximum control by compiling everything. I'm not that, so.
Yeah, same. I don't know how much faster you need Linux to be, really. I mean, using my Debian install with XFCE, it's pretty fast. I don't know, like, is it worth all the extra effort to get milliseconds of speed improvement?
Debian or Linux Mint Debian Edition?
Debian. That's my backup OS. I run Debian stable with XFCE, and Yeah, it's pretty darn fast. And even Mint is, fairly quick, especially if you compare it to something like Windows. So
Okay, I'm running Fedora 35 with the 5.15 kernel, and it's working. NVIDIA's working on that.
Mm.
And it is even like more smoother than X11 plus NVIDIA.
I'm on Fedora as well at the moment because
In
I
my
thought my audio
today's
problem
testing.
with pipeware was because I didn't properly set up pipeware, but it turns out I was just too stupid to change the input device in the global system settings.
and Wayland's been working fine for both of you guys.
I
Uh,
just installed it yesterday, but it's working smooth so
uh,
far. No complaints.
That's good.
I've been using Wayland for a year, almost a year. It will be a year
Oh,
around. It will be a year around a week a week or so. And well, I don't use it with NVIDIA on my desktop, but the laptop doesn't have NVIDIA, so.
Actually, I was waiting just for the Fedora's 35 release and the new kernel improvements to run Wayland. Otherwise, I gave up on the last one. Otherwise, I would be using it with Fedora 34 already.
hmm.
But I was pleasantly surprised when I saw Wayland appear on the desktop selection settings.
Has anyone tried the new MX Linux yet? 21, I believe.
I did.
What'd you think?
There's something about how MX boots and works that's in a weird way. It's weird. I'm not sure if it's just my computer, but for example, when I set the automatic login, or whenever I log in, it just shows the default wallpaper for a couple of seconds. Then when it loads my desktop, it loads my own wallpaper, and it's something I haven't seen on any other distro. It's a bit weird. Also, sometimes when I use it, MX's grub, it seems to take a little longer to boot than it would if I just select the kernel in my refined. So I just go go around the grub. It seems to be working quicker.
Huh.
So
Okay,
I
I
think
know for the wallpaper issue, what you may need to do is go into your login manager and change the wallpaper to the one you're using, your own wallpaper, and then it should display that from the beginning, and it should cut out that issue. I've had that before.
So LightDM is just showing its background because it's getting its background from the global.
Right. Yeah. So if you change it to your own whatever wallpaper you're using, it should show that right from the start.
I mean, the best feature for MX, for me at least, is the fact that they package a lot of stuff, and usually a lot more recent versions than Debian itself does. So, for example, VirtualBox and Brave are not in the Debian repos, so you have to add external repos for that. But the MX team just packages those, and also the more recent kernel in the AHS version.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not sure if I could just add the MX repos to a regular Debian installation and could just install from that.
I'm not sure. I never tried that, but I know I've got 19 on my ThinkPad, and I've been debating whether or not I want to switch up to 21 or just leave it set. But I might try that upgrade today or reinstall.
I think I'll stick with Fedora now. Now that Wayland is working.
Yeah, I've seen, on a couple of podcasts and I think on a couple YouTube videos, people are kind of declaring Fedora the new Ubuntu.
I'm with them.
Yeah.
It's not about declaring it as the next Ubuntu. I would say it is an amazing operating system.
Why is Ubuntu
My
no
only
longer the new Ubuntu?
because they don't seem to care that much about the desktop experience as they do about it being a good server distro.
Fedora also
Right.
beats Arch in desktop environment updates.
Yeah, Arch doesn't seem. I mean, Arch did get Plasma 5.23 a few days after it was released, but GNOME 41 has been out for a month and they still don't have it.
I'm talking about GNOME version. I'm not. I know. For
What
Plasma,
version?
I can take Ubuntu and then install 5.23.
No, I'm talking about the Arch repos because when Plasma 5.23 was released, a few days later it was in the Arch repos, the stable repos.
Which
But
one
no,
is this? Is this the 25th AE edition?
what do you mean?
The 25th anniversary edition of Plasma?
I think the latest one at least.
Yes.
But GNOME 41 has been out for a month and it hasn't made it to the stable Arch repos yet.
Oh, this reminds me, Norbert. I have to check Fedora's KDE implementation. I would have to install it and check what version it's on.
I was thinking about trying that, but I'm not that into KDE. I guess if I don't like how it's laid out by default. I know I could take some time to customize it, but I haven't took the time yet to do so.
Okay, regarding Plasma, the best distribution I have used is Ubuntu, the KDE Plasma version. Kubuntu or something like that it's called.
So somewhere, it might have been Reddit or Telegram. Someone made a comment about how using snaps on a server is a really good experience, at least for them. But snaps don't really work as well on the desktop. So that kind of explains why Canonical is pushing snaps, because if they are focusing more on the server side of things, then it makes sense that they want their own format. But when you look at the Ubuntu store, everything there seems to be a snap. It doesn't show that many native web packages, which kind of it kind of defends the point of having web packages in their repos.
I think that's kind of in the
No, not
contentious
defeats
part
the
of it.
purpose.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are, not necessarily up in arms, but they're not real happy with the fact that snaps are starting to become the de facto way to install software on Ubuntu. Has everyone had a chance to go over the Linux Mint blog and take a look at the news? It's very short.
Yeah.
Looks like the biggest thing is they're replacing Firefox 78 ESR and LMD, and they're going to just use the standard version, so 94 as of right now. Other than that, it's kind of minor stuff.
Some people were complaining about screen tearing in Wayland and NVIDIA using GPM, but nothing like that so far.
I did experience screen tearing today, but I had it on X with the NVIDIA drivers on Fedora.
On the GNOME desktop?
Yeah.
Or okay. That's interesting. GNOME usually doesn't screen tear for me. XFCE I've had hit or miss, but GNOME's usually pretty good.
I wonder how Plasma on Wayland would look right now if I
That's my
ran it.
main reason of keeping an eye out on Plasma, because on my laptop I only really want to use anything Wayland based, because I have a habit of poking at the touch screen, and Wayland just works better than that for that. So what I want to do for now, because I realized I should keep a Debian install around for school, university stuff. So I want to do a Debian with the only window manager that really works with Wayland and is fit for my uses Sway. So I want to try that.
Which version of Debian, stable or testing or
No,
unstable?
I want to go testing, because the other day it was today, I had to look. I was trying to find a package, and they had a Windows installer, but for Linux it says you had to compile it from source, which I couldn't do because I was trying to, it had a make file, but it didn't work for some reason. Then I
Which
realized that
one?
there was it's a biological data analyzer and visualizer
Okay.
software. So it's basically when there is an obscure software that they would sometimes just provide the source for, and you had to build. For some reason the makefile wasn't working. So then I realized on the website it says they maintain a deb package, but it's only in the unstable repos, which is weird because I did a search in the Debian repos and it seems to be in Buster and rules and everything. But just in case, I will go for Bookworm, the testing version. I was using Bookworm on my computer, but after an install, there was an update where the NVIDIA driver wouldn't work, so I went back to Bullseye. But I think it has been fixed since then. And I have a friend who has been using Debian almost his whole entire life, and he advised that when Unstable moves to testing, you should wait a couple of months before everything gets sorted out. But I guess it's been almost 3 months, so it should technically be safe.
Yeah. All right. Well,
This week I'm in the morning shift and I have to wake up at 4 a.m.
at 4 a.m.
Yes, US evening shift is
Oh,
morning
wow.
shift over here.
Yeah, that's pretty early.
Yeah, shift starts at 5:30 a.m.
No, I feel that pain. I start every morning at 4:45 a.m.
That would be for if you're in the West Coast. Sorry,
Yes.
West Coast. Yes, it would be for evening 4:30 p.m. for us. 4:30, 5 o'clock in the evening.
Ah. A little later then. Probably get a little sleep.
Yeah, I will be here for 15 more minutes and then I'll go sleep. 3 hours I have to wake up.
Yeah, it's not a lot of sleep.
But I compensated by sleeping after 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon.
Oh, good. So you took a nap.
Yes.
Good. Well, I picked up some new albums. Not that this matters too much, but I got Whitechapel.
Aliens?
Yeah, it was Whitechapel, Ken. You can't see it too well, but yeah, I got that one.
On the cover it looked like a couple of aliens.
It kind of does, yeah. And this one's got an interesting cover. This is out of Canada. This is Arcspire.
Oh, I
And,
heard about them.
Yeah, Bleed the Future. This is Tech Death. And then Mastodon with their new double album.
Oh, I heard about them too.
Yeah, Hushed and Grim.
Tyler just suggested it to me the other day. Because each week there's a suggested new album releases segment.
Yeah. I haven't gone through all these yet. I just got done ripping them right before the show started, so I'm gonna give them a play. But I like what I've heard so far.
Pretty good to see in this age of digital distribution,
The
physical
age of
media.
what?
Digital distribution of
Oh,
music
okay.
and everything. Good to see somebody collecting physical media.
I've got way too much. It's actually overflowing over here. I'm gonna have to find a new way to store all this stuff. But
I think you can digitize the discs, right?
yeah, I keep all my music ripped on the drive, so I play it digitally. But I like to have the physical media. I just like I'm an old dinosaur, so I like to have something that I can hold in my hands and look at the artwork and read along with the lyrics and all that nonsense.
Okay.
All I really have is
Switch to Blu-ray.
pretty much what's up here. It's
Blu-ray.
not much.
Oh yeah,
It's
that's
not
all
much,
right.
but it's honest work.
There you go.
This is the most recent one.
Like, what does it say?
It's Liquid Tension Experiment.
Oh, liquid tension. Okay.
Because they had a release I think in Japan last year or the year before that. It's a Paper Slave. It's supposed to mimic the vinyl in a CD format.
Ah, yeah.
So yeah, it definitely is a Japanese release.
Oh yeah, so it is. I have a couple of Japanese releases like that. Yeah.
You know, my Japanese releases tend to have Japan exclusive bonus tracks on them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because apparently it's sometimes it's usually cheaper for Japanese people to import the CDs from abroad, and they want to encourage the population to buy from Japanese vendors because they. I'm not sure how importing could be cheaper, but for some reason it is for them.
Right.
Have you heard about? I might have asked this a couple of weeks ago. Thank you, scientist.
Oh, right. Yeah, I've heard them.
Yeah. Oh yes, we did talk about the saxophone and trombone and stuff.
Yeah, all the crazy stuff they're throwing into metal now that never used to be there.
I mean, I'm not complaining.
No, a lot of it's really good. Matter of
Jazz
fact.
fusion. I think it's supposed to be. I mean, it's fusion.
Yeah, I was trying to find something over here, but I've got a mess. I don't know if I can show this. I'll see if my webcam will move. It's too dark. Let me see. I'm probably tremendously dusty, but you can see I've got quite a bit of media right here.
Oh.
And this is all stacked in shelves. So, yeah, I definitely need to get on the ball and start cleaning up that library.
All digital.
That's the way of everything now. As a matter of fact, I've purchased a few of these discs from Discogs where people just basically buy it, rip it, and then sell the CD, and they're done with it.
Well, technically it's legal to rip for personal use, right?
Yes, as long as you're not redistributing, I believe.
I've just been getting very comfortable with my Tidal subscription because 99% of everything I want to listen to is up on Tidal. There's some more obscure stuff tends to not be there. For example, stuff that's usually on Spotify might not be on Tidal, but 90% of what I want is there.
Right.
6 more.
There's
Yeah, I think a lot of people do
what's
that.
ironic is this phone is supposed to be able to play the master quality Untitled, which is the hi-fi audio. But for some reason, there's a bug that doesn't let the Tidal app play the hi-fi quality.
Oh,
But even though the lossless quality plays fine, and everything, even if it's just regular quality bitrate, everything sounds better because of the DAC. So I'm not really disappointed because of the lack of master quality, because I wouldn't really want to download a bunch of it because it would just take up space.
yeah. Especially in that format, yeah. And this is
It's
one
supposed,
of the
I think.
discs I have that looks kind of like a vinyl. This was a re-release, but it's a disc. But
I
yeah,
think
Clayton says you guys gonna talk music. Sorry, Clayton. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
probably getting a little long on the music. I know we're not a music podcast.
we can be the podcast can be anything about anything we want.
Well, it's Mexican GP weekend
Yeah.
today.
And technically, this is not a podcast; it's just a stream.
Mexican Grand Prix of the Formula One series.
Clayton asked where Tony is. Tony said he was not able to make it today. Most unfortunately. I know I haven't done much in the way of anything Linux or tech related, so I don't really have much to say on the front today. I might move, I've been sticking on the 5.4 kernel here on Mint because it's just working, and when I had Manjaro installed on my computer, I didn't really notice any kind of great performance improvements with the latest kernel. I mean, even 5.4's just been working fine. I didn't notice like great gaming improvements or anything. So, but I might move up to the 5.11 today on here.
I don't have much recent hardware. I think my newest hardware I have is in my desktop, and it's 2 years old at this point. So, but what I've been hearing about is how I think 5.14 had battery optimization stuff in it. So that's the only thing that might be interesting for me, if there's something battery and battery life related in maybe 5.15 or 16.
Okay,
Right.
so review of 5.15. It's a custom built kernel, not the official Fedora
I didn't
repository yet.
understand it. The review of what?
5.15 LTS kernel.
Yeah.
It's a modified version of 5.15, not the pure. The Xanmod Edge updated to 5.15. So it's really good on new hardware, I would say.
It's also an RTS, so I'm thinking about
So basically
staying.
now, once this implemented, it will be the new Xanmod LTS kernel, I believe.
All right.
Okay,
Clayton
go ahead.
says we should write a song for Linux Mint Metal. Man, I'd be down for that.
I've asked before.
You got any chops,
when
Joe?
we were talking about doing the intro, no, I couldn't write music to save my life. When we were talking about redoing the intro, I was asking around to see if we could get a metal version, and everybody was like, no.
Oh, the bias shows.
What's the story
Come
behind
on.
the intro and the transition music?
We inherited them.
Yeah, I think.
Were they
Yeah, that goes back to
specifically?
Robin Isaac.
But was it specifically written for mintCast, or
I
were
think
they?
so. I'm not sure. You'd have to ask Rob. He's in the Discord.
So is this transition music?
Yeah, ask Rob.
Well, I'm all for a metal version, but maybe a little bit of bias there.
Isn't it already metal version?
You could have multiple versions.
It's more like rock.
I mean, rock is fine. Rock is nice.
Sure. Better than some others it could have been. Sure.
Joe, what about you? What have you been doing in the Linux world?
What have I been doing?
Yes, Linux world.
In
Linux
the
world.
Linux world. Mostly being sick.
Okay.
I've spent the last week sick, so not much.
What was...
See what I'm doing right now in this lovely chair? Either I was in this room or I was in the bathroom. That was my week.
Oh,
I did
I
get
hope you're
invited
fine now.
to participate in a Shadowrun campaign on Discord, but it's going on like right now. It starts at 12 and goes till like 7 on Saturdays, so I'm not going to be able to join because I'm hanging out with you guys.
What is Shadowrun?
It's a role-playing game, like D&D, except cooler.
Wait, Shadowrun, the mobile game from Gameloft?
No, it's a tabletop RPG.
Very cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Blade Runner-ish.
Yeah, you take Dungeons and Dragons and you slam it together with Blade Runner and a couple of other really odd things, like anything written by not Neil Gaiman. But yeah, basically Cyberpunk and D&D. Slam them together and you have Shadowrun.
Yep.
Yeah, my mistake. I confused it with Shadowgun, which is a mobile RPG.
Well, there are actually 3 separate Shadowrun video games that I know of. Actually 4 that I know of. One that was on the Xbox 360, I think. And then one that was on the NES. No, SNES. And one that was on the Sega. And
I
then there's
wonder how...
Shadowrun Returns, which is PC.
I wonder how they used to play on those days, the SNES and NES.
I love the Sega
If they
one.
if they wanted to do multiplayer or something like that.
You didn't play multiplayer on those. It was just a standalone game with a specific storyline for you to go through.
Okay.
But
The
yeah.
PC version is online, obviously.
Yeah, but it also has a standalone version, and most of it is community driven.
Yeah. Actually, I have it. I haven't.
I haven't played in
God,
a while.
I bought it long time. Yeah. Last played on my Steam account in 2016. So,
Yeah, I think mine's the same.
Yep. It's gonna need to be.
It was interesting. It just
one of
wasn't
those
enthralling.
Right.
So this reminds me of another community-backed game or simulation.
Goat Simulator,
exactly.
is that what you said?
What?
No, I'm talking about Armor 3.
Ah,
It's military sim, mil sim. Like backed by community.
Yeah, that was actually considered a very difficult game to run when it came out.
Which one?
Arma.
I have it. I bought it and it runs okay on my setup for now. I can't run it at ultra, but medium to high is playable.
No, it's good. Yeah, I never did buy it, but it was kind of similar to Crisis in the fact that it was just...
No, it's like open world.
I mean, just graphics-wise, people were having trouble running it when it came out.
Yeah, that I can agree upon.
Yeah.
Now I just bought it to play multiplayer with other milsim squads, which are available online.
Very good.
Yeah, it is community driven, like there will be many mods, campaigns, missions. You can download and you can install from Steam.
Very good.
I wanted to ask Nishan something about. You said there was when there's a new DLC for is it Ghost Recon?
Yes.
Then you had to go back to Windows. But do you play on? Is it on Steam or where do you play?
It's on Ubisoft Connect, and since it's mostly online, I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for Ubisoft to make the EAC or whatever anti-cheat they use.
But the game itself, are you playing it with a Proton or Lutris or something like that?
Sorry?
The game itself, is it native to Linux or are you playing it through Proton or Lutris?
It has no. I'm not playing it right now because it's not compatible. So
yes, but when you were playing it on Linux, what were you using for it?
I was playing old Ghost Recon, not the new one.
Yes, but is the game native to Linux? That is,
no,
does
it's
it run
Windows
natively?
only.
But when you said you managed to go full Linux, did it mean that you could play the same game on Linux?
Oh, like through Proton?
No, I was playing Witcher 3 on Linux at high settings. Older games like 2014, 15, around about.
Older games.
So, like slowly moving towards newer games, it'll take time, I think. Witcher 3 came out in 2016, 17, I think.
When did Diablo 2 come out?
Oh man, that was a while ago.
Right, I think I was in Iraq when I was last playing. Well, not when I was last playing.
Oh wow.
2003?
Yeah, I was in Iraq in 2003.
Nishan, doesn't Ghost Recon run on Linux via Lutris?
No, it's a Epic Games. I bought it off Epic Games on sale. I haven't tried Epic Games on Linux yet.
Does it have any sort of anti-cheat?
Yes, it has anti-cheat, and it is in the list of anti-cheat.
Which one?
There was a list where there was like tracking anti-cheat progress on Linux.
I know of Easy Anti-Cheat and BattleEye.
There was somebody shared a link on the Discord. I don't remember.
The developers of which said they would implement. I'm not sure if general Linux compatibility or just for the Steam Deck, but.
Well, if they make it for the Steam Deck, there will be general Linux compatibility. I mean, it's gonna run like just Linux, so.
I'm waiting for Ghost Recon Breakpoint to come along. They have made the new DLC so good.
Does the Steam Deck run on X or Wayland?
I'm not sure.
Because it has to be one of those two.
Well, yeah.
And they won't want to pick something that would be generally the best experience for someone who has no idea what either of those two things are.
I think they're going to want the most compatibility, so that sounds like X to me.
Could be. Of course, I think they're using all AMD in that, right?
Yep.
Probably.
Yeah.
There's a specific word about what the chip in the Steam Deck is. It's like an all-in-one processor.
APU.
Yeah, I think like
APU, yeah. So what exactly is an APU?
It's just an APU is just a CPU that also does graphics processing.
Yes, but yeah, I think pretty much every CPU does graphics processing.
Not all. I don't think some desktop processors have.
Yeah, my desktop processor, I can't run graphics through it.
Yeah. Mine doesn't have one also, but 90% of the general consumer CPUs do. But I guess
basically it was impossible to get an APU from AMD for the last couple of years, or nearly impossible, until this year when they came out with what was it, the The 5000 series had a couple of Gs that came out. But like, there's no 3600G. There's only the 3600. There's a 3600 X, and I think there's a 3600U. But none of those will do graphics processing.
No, mine is a 5500U and it has a Vega.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to confess, I never had an AMD CPU.
Oh, you're
No,
missing
but
out.
Yeah.
Joe, you said that it didn't have a Vega card, right?
Because I think
The 3600U.
Because
I
I think
don't-
when I got my previous CPU, the Ryzen series wasn't. I don't think it was at the point where was considered better than Intel. And when 2 years ago I bought a new computer, I built a new computer. I wasn't really aware of how Ryzen is because I've never really kept up with CPUs because I never really was into gaming that much.
Okay. And shocking news, Alder Lake may pull back some of the gains from AMD this year. 12 Gen.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
The Adler or Alder Lake 12th Gen Intel CPUs benchmark shows it ahead of Ryzen.
Yes,
Fifth
but
gen.
at a significant power consumption, so
Yes,
it's
but
it's a space heater.
They benchmarked it against the most recent Ryzen series, which came out significantly earlier than the new Intel processors. So I think the new Ryzens will be coming out early next year, and that's what really the new Intel CPUs should be compared to.
I think these are all sort of paper launch talking points almost, because until you can get your hands on chips, I mean, it's kind of pointless in my opinion. The prices are still ridiculous.
No, for me it will be different. For you it will be different. Depends on the setup, right? What you're running.
I think whenever
PC wise, I'm talking, not laptop.
What's not good, Clayton?
Yeah, Mark said AM5. Yeah, so new platform coming from AMD. So that means you're going to need new motherboard, new RAM.
A 6510 you can have for about $10.
Never heard of a 6510.
I don't know.
Joe, did you participate in Pac-Man tournaments?
No. The
Interesting
only
wall
tournaments
piece.
I ever participated in were like Magic the Gathering tournaments.
Okay. That's a pretty cool back frame of the Pac-Man maze.
Oh yeah, my wife got that for me. I believe it was for my 40th birthday.
Okay, and that Space Invaders cabinet.
Oh, Commodore 64. I had one, yeah.
It still runs?
The Commodore 64? No, I actually...
No, I was asking Joe about his Space Invaders cabinet.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not that
Space
old.
Invaders.
It's arcade 1-up. I got that for Christmas last year from a friend.
A couple of years ago, there was a Commodore 64 replica with recent hardware inside it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was made by Commodore. It might have been.
No, many hobbyist people, they 3D print out the parts and they put modern hardware in it. And they model it.
Speaking of Pac-Man for a minute, does Joe will probably remember this, but do you remember sitting down at that table version of it?
Yes.
Arcade style, yeah.
They still have those around.
Do they?
Yeah.
I haven't seen one in ages.
You can still get them. You can Arcade 1-up makes one. I don't know if they make the Pac-Man version, but I assume they do. And there's multiple arcade ones that are floating around as well.
Yeah, I spent a lot of hours when I lived out in the mountains in Mariposa area in California. There was nothing out there. We had one little general store out front, and it had a few games, and one of those was the Pac-Man.
Do you know that there was a clone of Pac-Man called PC Man for DOS?
I'm not surprised.
It was a clone of Pac-Man made to run on DOS computers.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that. I just
What do you
3D
have there,
printed these parts here. I'm trying to make an adapter for my phone mount. So that way it can go in the cup holder in my chair. And I'll have an articulated mount for the, for use with DroidCam.
Yeah. That'll be nice. Yeah, Mrs. Pac-Man.
Pac-Man's clone PC Man on DOS.
Whenever anybody mentions Mrs. Pac-Man, all I can think of is the movie Van Wilder.
That is some epic movie.
Yeah.
Alright, let's see. I almost need some more bolts. Do I not have any more 8s? I gotta have some more 8s.
So, Norbert, you did that audio edit last time. How'd that all go for you? It seemed like it turned out pretty well.
I think I spent more than 3 hours of it on it. I wanted to go through properly, and there was a lot of, for example, there were a couple of times when someone would start a sentence and they would restart it because of something maybe they... So I tried to edit out mistakes that I think any normal person wouldn't be. I'm looking for the proper English word. I wouldn't really want to spend time editing out. Basically, I wanted to make the edit very tight and just to flow very well. And I said, for example, the segment that I chose to be at before the intro, it was really good. I didn't even have to, like, the timing was also perfect. How the two comments kind of flow into each other and the intro, yeah. So yeah.
Good. Yeah. Well, hey, Leo's in it. Hey, Leo.
Yep.
He said, "This is the content I wanted to hear."
Also, thank you for reminding me that I should do I should start editing the second part in time.
Yeah. So overall, how long do you think you spent? Yeah. How long do you think you spent doing that in total?
The first part.
Yeah, the first part.
I think it was maybe 3 hours.
3 hours total.
I'm not sure if it counts as too much. But at least I was listening to it as well.
Yeah, no, I think it came out pretty good. Leo says, Norbert, Control plus L will silence whatever you've selected. Learning the keybind has saved me hours of time.
Oh, because every time I wanted to silence something, I would go generate and generate silence. Okay. I also realized that whenever I want to just to move something, I would just do the cut and paste, and it could switch. I could switch around to different segments of the same audio track. I should listen to. I should look up more tutorials and stuff.
Okay, I'll have medicine, then I head out and sleep.
Yeah, get some sleep.
Morning work.
Yeah, get some sleep.
Have a nice time, you all.
Thank you.
Have a nice.
Get some rest.
Have nice dreams. You know how recently Facebook announced their company rebranding to Meta.
Oh, yeah.
And when you open up Instagram, on the spread screen it says Instagram from Facebook or by Facebook or something. Now it says from Meta, so they were very quick with the rebranding.
Wow. I don't use any of their services, but I know it did make its way into. Who covered that? Was that Destination
Everyone.
Linux or
I think
everyone?
I haven't. I'm not sure. It was mostly I've seen it being covered by a bunch of tech channels and even YouTube Linux channels. But I know that for some reason this week in Linux was skipped. It didn't have a release this week. So, and I'm not sure. I think it wasn't covered in the Linux Action News.
Yeah.
And I haven't listened to
Yeah,
the
I remember.
destination. I haven't listened to this week's Destination Linux yet.
Pretty sure Linux
can't
Unplugged didn't
remember.
cover it.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Mm.
But someone said that's just such a generic name, and I have to agree. It's like, yeah, just a
No,
very bland.
I think it's on purpose. It's on purpose.
Yeah, I think they equated it to Google with the alphabet branding.
I'm not entirely sure what Google was trying to gain by renaming themselves to Alphabet, because they don't market themselves. They don't put any of the name Alphabet. It isn't in any of the Google services and Google websites.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think they were trying to segment it out some, so Google maybe represented the search engine side, while the parent umbrella company was supposed to be Alphabet. I don't know.
Well,
Yes, but
there's probably
Google
another
is
reason
still-
involved there. Specifically, if they do get declared a monopoly, it's a whole lot easier to break the company down.
Right. That's
Yeah, I think Facebook was also
Has
under
major
the threat of
concerns about
maybe-
being declared a monopoly at this point.
true. No kidding. Yeah, I think, Leo, I think you got a point there too. Yeah, ruin folks across the globe. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, nobody
Yeah.
try to get motion sick here. Actually, you know what? I'll just disconnect the camera for now. Y'all can stare at my shirt for a little while.
All right. We didn't get enough of the text done of it in there, Joe. Now we just got a gray screen.
Texas Linux Fest.
Ah, there you go. That's a good one. Yeah, Mark said also good for tax purposes. And yeah, I have no doubt they probably had that in mind as well. Any way to get a little savings.
Oh, are you complaining about me making stuff, Clayton? They do sell that, but you know what? I 3D printed my own. It's going to work the way I want it to, or I'll redesign it till it does.
There you go.
Does anyone have any ideas for the next show topic?
Oh, the next show topic is LPIC.
Sorry?
LPIC, the LPIC test.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Nishan's going to be going through.
Mm.
Which means I'll be exceptionally silent for this next episode. I have nothing to say on that.
Probably me as well.
Hey, the whole point is, you know, it's him studying, so if you can help him with any questions that he has, although I don't want it to just be him asking us questions, I want him to use it to go over the things that he does know and tell it to us. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that's a good question, Leo. I don't know what parts of LPIC he's going to go over. Probably a good question for Nishant.
Yeah, if you guys want to ask him in the Discord and flesh that out a little bit over the upcoming week. Yeah,
In order, you might have to jump in with him.
I'm not trying to sound critical there, Clayton. I'm really not. I'm just good at sounding critical.
Yeah, I might as well learn the entire thing by next week to be able to question him.
There you go. Leo says no way you can cover it all in 30 minutes. So
yeah, like how there's that quote from the Avengers movie of when did you become an expert on
Last night.
thermonuclear astrophysics? Last night, yeah.
Yeah, I did it all in one evening. We just crammed. Yeah. Leo, we might need you to come back on so you can facilitate the conversation.
For that one, I absolutely agree. It might be really good to have Leo back on for an LPIC Q&A.
There you go.
God forbid you bring on the teacher when you need to teach something.
Yep.
I
third this opinion.
There it is. It's unanimous. Oh, that'll help prepare the notes at least. Oh man, I feel snubbed, Leo. I feel snubbed.
I feel the hate.
Feel the hate. It's all love. All love. Even if it's tough love.
Yeah.
I need a new bucket of bolts.
I drove a lot of those over the years.
Well, I bought this thing several years ago. Oh, my camera's not hooked up. You can't see shit. I'm all holding this box up to blank nothing.
2 words: Harbor Freight.
Oh, 1 word: Amazon.
Even more convenient.
Yeah, I'll order some more.
Emma who?
Amazon.
Oh no. Yeah.
They're this little tiny company. Oh, by the way, in my town, they're actually building a new Amazon warehouse, and I drove past it yesterday. They just have the concrete walls up. This thing is massive. It felt like it took me 10 minutes just to drive past it. I have no idea how someone's expected to walk around in there. It is gargantuan.
Well, maybe they're not expected to walk around. Maybe they're just going to be robots doing everything.
Oh yeah, I imagine there's going to be a lot of people in electric pallet jacks and golf carts. And,
Tom Scott has a video about a almost fully automated warehouse where robots would be going on rails that are diagonally to each other, and between these intersections of rails in the holes there are these
Leo,
containers where they're.
I get what you're saying there, Leo, but you lost me at go out.
Oh. Yeah. Outside bad?
Outside bad. There's people out there.
Don't remind me.
And it's worse. Those people might want to, talk to me.
Yeah, interact.
Yeah, I am old. I get it, Clayton. But you're older.
You could also.
So am I.
Yeah. I went among people sometime in October, and what did it give me? The coronavirus. So.
No.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's out there, still lurking.
My sense of smell is still not 100%. I would say it's maybe around 50%.
How about your taste? Have you been able to get back to the tea drinking and taste it?
My taste has been well, cue the joke. I have no taste, but it never went. it never went completely away. So I was still able to taste like sweet and bitter, and so the very basic taste. But your taste also relies on your smell. So I've been drinking tea, and for example, I can taste some of the black tea. But yesterday I was drinking green tea, and what I could taste was a little bitter, the bitterness. So it's still nowhere near where I would want it to be. It's a shame because I still have some of a very expensive green tea left, and I wouldn't want to drink it if I can't taste anything. So.
Right.
I've been drinking cheap tea because it tastes all the same.
I wonder if you could do like a very like a more strong pungent tea, like maybe an oolong or something like that.
Well, you can get a very pungent green.
Someone knows their tea. Someone knows
A
their
little.
tea.
I'm not a tea connoisseur, but I
mean,
know them.
You can make a pretty strong gunpowder green tea that you can smell all across the house.
The tea that I drank yesterday didn't really feel anything. It was a gunpowder green tea.
Then you're not doing it right.
I mean, how do you make a gunpowder green tea? I haven't drank any gunpowder tea in maybe 4 years.
I use my coffee press.
Oh.
You let
like a French press?
A French press, yes.
Yeah.
You get a French press, you put the gunpowder tea in the bottom, and then boil the water. Once it's ready, you pour it in, you let it steep for 4 minutes. And then you push it down, and it's extremely potent.
Mm-hmm. But you're not supposed to put steep green tea in boiling water. It's supposed to like be around 212. So I think it's in Fahrenheit. It's 212 around.
But see, Joe and Leo are from Texas, which means they are rebels.
No, wait, 212 is boiling. It's a boiling point. So 180 in Celsius. Yeah, green tea should be steeped around 180 Fahrenheit. Generally.
Okay, I'll give that a try. 180, you say?
Yeah. I'm not sure about the 4 minutes. Because, for example...
that's standard steeping time is 4 minutes for a French press. Well, that's supposed to be the best amount of time for coffee. I don't know exactly for
coffee,
tea.
yeah. No. Basically, there's something that's called the international standard method of making tea, but it calls for boiling water and like 5 minutes, so it's not very suitable for green tea. For example, I have some Japanese green tea that is very sensitive, so they even package it with the silica gel that prevents it from getting any moisture in it. So for those, for example, it's even lower than the 180. It's around.
I need a wing nut.
It have to be steeped around 160, and it's under 1 minute or under 2 minutes. And some Chinese and green teas require only like 10 to 20 seconds of steeping time, but then you can re-steep them. So I assume that gunpowder green tea is only meant to be steeped once. So that's maybe why the 4 minutes is reasonable.
I'll just go full Jean-Luc Picard and do a little Earl Grey, a little bergamot.
That might be something I could smell.
Yes. That or Constant Comment from Bigelow. That's also got a pretty nice citrus taste to it.
I haven't really been looked at brand teas because there's a couple of there are basically 2 tea houses in where I live that order from farmers in China and in Japan and around there. So and it's mostly for the green tea. So and also China has a region called Yunnan that is very famous for its black tea. So when I want to drink a black tea plain without anything, without milk, then I would drink the Chinese black tea. Or when I would want to drink something with milk, and I would go for the Yorkshire tea, Yorkshire, the regular or the Yorkshire Gold, because Yorkshire is surprisingly cheap compared to how good it tastes. So maybe once or twice a year I would just buy a big bag of Yorkshire. They're like a quarter kilo. It's like maybe half a pound. It's a half a pound bag of tea, and it would last me many months. So I just restocked, and it's mainly what I've been drinking since I lost my smell, because for some reason it's the tea that I can taste the best in this condition.
Yeah, there you go. And Lewis said iced Earl Grey is also fantastic. I've never tried it iced. I've always drank Earl Grey hot. Because, hey, isn't that the line? Earl Grey hot.
I might have to build a riser for this mount. Build a riser.
Is it?
Oh.
Is it
So
a little
it's
too low?
up a little higher. Yeah, I don't want it to be the old nose cam.
Oh, that's what the beard's for. You just put it over top.
I usually, when in the summer, usually slowly transition to drinking tea cold. Because what I mentioned, the Japanese teas, they have this, I guess, this seaweed kind of smell to them, and they are very quick to steep when you put them in cold water directly,
I
or
like
room
making
temperature water.
I like making Death Wish coffee as a cold coffee, just because it loses some, well, basically all of the bitterness, the acidity,
Mm.
and it's much smoother to drink. And I don't know if you've
Yeah.
ever had Death Wish coffee, but
I
yeah,
don't really drink coffee.
that's your
I have
loss.
some in the cupboard right now, and yeah, I only unfortunately do coffee hot, so I drink it full strength.
You should.
And with no training wheels, just straight black. And tea, I also drink straight. I don't put anything in it.
Yeah, but green tea is also the same. The colder the less hot the water is, then the less bitterness there comes out of the leaves. That's the main reason I was suggesting the 180 degrees for steeping green tea.
Right. Yep. I have to say, I just I like everything straight and plain. I'm boring and bland in that manner. I don't mind bitterness. I actually prefer bitterness to sweet flavors. I'm more of a savory person.
Well, see, what I like to do is take that cold coffee, usually half a gallon of it, and pour it into my giant TARDIS cup, which is I think 24 ounce or something, and put in a full serving of vanilla protein powder and some maple syrup and maybe a little bit of sweetener to go along with it, and then blend that up and yeah, stay awake all day.
Have you ever had Switchel?
No.
Either you? No? Okay, so it's an old farmer's drink created back during Prohibition, so farmers wanted, something that kind of gave them that alcohol burn without alcohol, obviously.
I acknowledge what you
so
say,
they-
Leo, and it's probably true.
Yeah. So it's an
Yeah.
apple cider vinegar based drink. But it has sweeteners and that, yeah.
I'm a normal 40-year-old Clayton. In another 10 years, I'm quite certain my doctor's going to tell me that I have to give up coffee, and then I'll probably go to jail for murder.
I mean, is the name Death Wish coffee stuck with me? Then you mentioned it.
Well, there are
good
stronger
stuff.
coffees. I think Black Rifle is technically stronger, and I think there's a couple of other on the market, but definitely Death Wish is up there on the list.
Yep. And it's got really cool packaging.
And it's the only Keurig pod that doesn't suck.
My parents drink coffee regularly, but they always buy beans, and they have a coffee machine that grinds them.
Yeah, I have a grinder inside, and I buy the Death Wish coffee beans.
The interesting thing, it's one of these big office coffee machines that they just have at home, and it's very interesting because when they had their previous coffee machine, it made coffee it was the only coffee that I liked. But then it broke down, and they get a new coffee machine. They use the same beans, and for some reason, ever since then, whenever I drank the coffee that it made, it never tasted quite like that. So I had a brief period of maybe 1 or 2 years, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, when I would drink coffee sometimes, only when it came out of that machine. But ever since they got a new machine, I just stopped drinking coffee at all, because I don't really drink coffee on my own will.
My eldest child likes coffee, but she won't drink it when I make it. She says it gives her the jitters.
Yeah, Death Wish will do that. sometimes we'll mix it, go 50% Folgers or whatever, mega brand coffee, and then half of Death Wish.
I don't
Tame
think
it down
I've
a little.
I don't think I ever experienced caffeine overdose because I have a theory that I have a high tolerance for caffeine. Because
We could
whenever
test that.
because whenever I would just skip drinking any tea for like a week, for example, when sometimes I would just do that, and I don't really feel the lack of caffeine. Sometimes when I have just a couple of hours of sleep and I have to stay awake, I would drink something that's has more caffeine, like a matcha or a stronger black tea, and it would keep me awake. But whenever I'm just doing my everyday tasks, I don't really feel. I don't think I have got a kick out of drinking caffeine.
No, sometimes
So
a couple of days will go by and I'll realize that I haven't had any caffeine in a while. But I just really like lots and lots of caffeine.
what do you like about the caffeine?
One moment.
It might be a stupid question, but because I mainly drink tea for the taste, and it also because it's healthy. I mean, green tea is.
I drink caffeine for that nice buzz.
Oh. So you might also have a high tolerance for caffeine if you drink that much.
An entire pot at a time.
I definitely did not search for converting 24 ounces to milliliters. A few minutes ago.
Roughly, okay. Another one I do is about 500 milliliters of coffee.
Yeah. But 24 ounces is almost 700 milliliters.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the.
But you got to remember
the
there.
cup.
The 700 milliliters is the coffee plus the protein powder plus the syrup plus the vanilla extract and plus ice. So it comes out to about 700 milliliters.
Oh, that didn't occur to me because I was just expecting for it to be. For some reason, when you said coffee, what came to my mind was black coffee, just coffee.
Well, yeah, there's 500 milliliters of black coffee in it.
Oh. How much sugar is in that?
None. Zero.
What do you mean? What did you mean by syrup?
Sugar-free maple syrup.
Oh, is that a thing?
Yes. 5 calories per 15 milliliter serving.
How do they make sugar-free maple syrup?
I don't know.
Because anything that comes out of a plant in sweet is mostly sugar.
Zero sugar added. How about that? Maybe it's not egg. Maybe you know what? I'll go get it. I'll show you the label and because now I'm curious. How do they make it? Alright, here we go. Sugar-free, maple flavor, natural and artificial flavor.
Oh.
Water, sorbitol, cellulose gum, natural and artificial flavors, salt, caramel color, sodium benzoate, potassium sorbate, sucralose.
All organic.
Yep, all organic. Potassium, aspartame, citric acid.
Yeah, aspartame is usually what's in the soft drinks as well.
There it is.
5 calories.
It's not in there's maple.
Yeah.
It's all the things combined, Leo, that makes it maple. See, it's all that stuff.
So it's a case of them just mixing chemicals together that so much that they get a taste that has nothing to do with the chemicals themselves.
Right. Yeah. It fuses and becomes maple.
It just tastes like maple.
Yeah. There's so much artificial in it, it becomes organic.
Surprisingly, Clayton, considering all the horrible things I've done to my body, my heart is like super freaking healthy. I did have it checked out because of that low heart rate concern, and it turns out that my low heart rate is because my heart is exceptionally strong.
It's well optimized.
Joe, yeah, exactly. Joe's just completely relaxed at all times.
Yeah, that's what it is. Completely relaxed at all times.
Yep. Never stressed.
Never. Mm-mm. It's
Also,
all
I'm
the
pretty sure.
caffeine.
I'm also pretty confident that added sugar and natural sugar don't really have that much difference in how they are metabolized in the body.
Yeah,
I think
shown that.
added sugar might just be a buzzword.
Yeah. Yeah, your body sees
Because
sugar as sugar.
yeah.
Not to promote it, Leo, but just standard old Coors Banquet.
That's true. They don't put how you make it on the label. I don't really care. The stuff's delicious. And I dropped under 200 pounds just the other day, but that was mostly because, I was sick. But considering I was 265, I'll take it.
Nah, man, I think I need to get sick for like a month.
Well, or you could just start volume eating and lose, a lot of weight.
True. I need to get my rear end off of the computer chair. That would probably help a lot. Yeah, I agree, Leo. One of the classics. Nothing special, nothing fancy, but, this is the one day that if I am going to have any libations, I, partake in Saturdays. So, cheers.
My wife did get me some rather good whiskey.
Oh, what'd you get?
Blind Squirrel and Squirrel, peanut butter, and what was the salted caramel that you got me?
Peanut butter whiskey?
Yeah, it was good.
Oh my. Yeah,
it was
that's
freaking delicious.
Wow. Salud.
But yeah, I definitely recommend Blind Squirrel peanut butter whiskey.
I have never heard of such a thing, but that combines two. Well, I can't say I'm a huge whiskey person, but I love peanut butter. So, yeah, might have to give that a go.
It is tasty. And if you're a big peanut butter fan and you're trying to lose weight, I also recommend powdered peanut butter.
Powdered. Now that is
PB
another
Fit
thing that
or
I've never
PB2.
tried. Okay. I don't eat a whole lot of it. I actually prefer, well, I don't prefer, but if I'm going to have peanuts, I typically just eat raw peanuts. But
also high calorie.
every once in a while,
problem with it.
It is. It's,
but
yeah, you don't see skinny squirrels.
You get PB2 or PB Fit, and instead of using water, you use this 5 calorie per serving stuff. And yeah, it really enhances the flavor. Oh, yeah, some of the other ones that the wife got me. Screwball peanut butter whiskey. I haven't tried this one yet.
Ooh.
And then Devil's River coffee bourbon. I have had this one before, and it is delicious. And then this one I also haven't tried yet. Old Smoky Tennessee Mountain Made Salty Caramel Whiskey.
Oh, man. I'll tell you what, party at Joe's. I have to go get a plane ticket.
I don't know about whiskey, but I have some smoked tea that has a smoky flavor.
Thank you, wife.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, you know what? It's Saturday.
Oh, here we go. We're going to get a live test right here, huh? Live review.
Ice cube?
No.
I'm just going to get you your nice villain glass.
Too bad we don't have
Give me
any
a villain
mint
glass,
whiskey.
but I don't need any ice.
I have a kid too, Clayton. I know. Well, I suppose not a kid anymore. She's 19, but she was a kid. And she's still stressful.
I have a wife. Of course I have stress. And kids, they add to the stress too, but mostly the wife.
I'm guessing they would all disagree with that assessment.
Oh, she knows she's stressful.
Insurance policy. What else am I supposed to do to you?
Here we go. Well, Norbert, you might have to run to the local liquor store.
Almost feel like putting some maple syrup in it.
Well, Prost.
Salud. That ain't bad. Actually, that's more peanut butter flavor than the Blind Squirrel.
Which one is this?
This is the Screwball peanut butter whiskey.
All right.
That's actually, like, really good peanut butter wise.
I'm going to guess it's probably something that I won't be able to find out here on the left coast.
All you can do is walk into your local liquor store and find out.
Yeah. Bevmo is about our best chance around here. I want a Lone Star. Is that too much to ask? I want Lone Star once before I kick off this rock. And Yingling.
Why?
I don't know. Just because I want to have all the macros, all the big guys. I mean, we have Pabst and we have some of that other stuff. But just some
It's
of
like
the,
saying,
I guess
I want a
you'd say-
Schlitz before I
Yeah,
die.
Lone Star beer, Leo. Hey, I drank, let's see, an Old English. Yeah, a bottle of Old English the other day. Oh, really? Yingling and Fort Worth. Cool. Getting that East Coast beer down there.
But yeah, if you come to visit, you can definitely share my whiskey. It's not like I'm going to drink it all anytime soon.
You can help me with this bottle of Wild Turkey 101 that's been sitting in my cupboard for like...
I have a couple of
6
bad
months.
experiences with Wild Turkey 101, but I'm always quite willing to chase the Wild Turkey again.
That's it. We're just going to have to do a mintCast meet. What's your plane ticket looking like, Norbert? Get out here to the States. We can all just meet in Texas.
Ooh, I'm not sure. I mean, we could just embrace Facebook's idea of the metaverse and we could meet in VR.
Yeah. Oh, you got that right, Leo. That stuff will definitely open up the nostrils. Just take a sniff. You don't even have to take a sip.
Leo, could you set me as I keep forgetting. Could you set me as a moderator on the chat? I just sent something for my VName to be visible.
Moderator in what chat?
The YouTube chat. Or whatever, or anyone who can do it.
I think Joe's your man.
There you go.
And... Oh, nice.
I'll just make everybody a moderator. Clayton's a moderator. No.
So I've been using Firefox for around a week, and I'm really starting to like the. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the multi-account containers they weren't in Firefox by default. I had to add an extension. Is that normal?
They
Because
are an extension.
I was expecting it to be in there by default because when I tried the LibreWolf, which is based on Firefox, it had it by default.
No, it's an extension. It's an official extension by Mozilla, but it's an extension you have
Firefox
to add.
94. Oh, I didn't even realize that I'm on Void, and the last time I checked, I was on Firefox 93, but I'm not sure what's new about Firefox 94. I heard
Well,
it
they
was
did
some.
some under the hood improvements, speed
Yeah.
improvements, and I'll
Mhm.
tell you what, the web pages that I normally visit, they've been super snappy.
I'm pretty sure
So I don't know
Fedora.
if it's placebo, but it certainly feels faster. What do you think, Lou? Have you noticed a speed increase?
Uh,
Or anyone?
I'm not sure. But I just checked, and Fedora also is on Firefox 94. I know that I had some bad experience with in audio and video encoding when I was in a Zoom chat, a Zoom meeting on Firefox in the browser, and also when we did last week's stream. I had
Oh,
very
okay.
I had really CPU usage at around 70% on each core. And
Huh.
apparently when I switched to the audio in Discord was cutting off. So when I switched to the Discord app, it was better, but it was still pretty high, the CPU usage, and that was on Endeavor, which is Arch based. So now I switched to Fedora, and I want to see. I might just look at the CPU usage right now.
Yeah, you got H
Okay,
top or
so
something.
now it's around 50 to 40, 40 to 50% on each core, which is definitely less than the around 70.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I've been using Discord in a browser as a measure of saving RAM, use RAM, but I guess it hurts CPU usage. So, and now it's below. It's around 35 to 40. Sometimes it jumps up to 50. It's reasonable because it's a video chat.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little
I
heavier.
I also had to resort to downloading the Zoom Flatpak. So I want to next time I have a meeting, I have to try that as well. Because last time I was in a Zoom meeting in a browser, everyone's video was super laggy and very out of sync with the audio.
Oh. Yeah, I have to say, yeah, Leo, I'm having the same experience. Heavy sites do seem to be loading faster in 94. And Clayton says it's about 26-hour drive for me. Yeah, that's a pretty good hike to Texas. I don't know what it would be from California where I'm at, but I'm kind of in the like smack in the middle of California, the ugly part
You could
where
also
nobody
meet
really wants to live.
you could also meet somewhere in the UK. I'm sure if Tony was
Yeah.
here, he would also vote for that.
I'm sure, yeah, that'd work fine for Tony.
Less convenient for me, but I could manage.
I'd love to visit, but unfortunately, it's quite a trip, little expense.
And I'm not sure
I'm
about
getting-
how restrictions are.
I'm not sure. I've actually, for a truck driver by trade, I've only left California 2 or 3 times in my life. As a matter of fact, I rarely ever leave my hometown. I generally just stay right here.
Yeah.
And I hate it, but I'm also too lazy to do anything about it. I like to be at home.
The furthest I went from home was also a couple of the neighboring countries, but I've never even been to either Germany or the UK either.
No, Oktoberfest.
No, I'm not much of a drinker.
I'd go for once. Just once. Just for the experience.
Yeah, no, I don't think I've ever been properly drunk in my life, and in a way, I'm kind of proud of that. Maybe, I'm not
that
sure.
is a good thing.
It helps that I don't enjoy the taste of pretty much anything that has alcohol in it. I mean, I think once I drank a brown beer that I liked, but ever since that I tried other beers, it was maybe, I'm not sure what that experience was about, but I don't really drink anything.
Nothing wrong with that.
I mean, I drink a lot of tea.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that either. Tea is fantastic. Matter of fact, it's hard for me to call I mean, sometimes alcohol just doesn't sound good, and yeah, tea is definitely the backup.
Yeah. Tea is great. And also, along with a bit of a change in diet, I managed to lose around 50 pounds of weight during the last 3 or 4 years. and didn't really have to up the exercise that much because it's mainly about the diet.
It's
Right.
95% diet.
Yeah, I'm also not really into bodybuilding and stuff, so I don't drink either protein or stuff. It's just my philosophy is that people eat enough sugar to not have it in their drinks as well. So a
Indeed.
few years ago, I just went completely drinking tea without any sweetening.
But I can't say that I buy the fact that you're not into bodybuilding, Norbert.
Hmm?
I think all Hungarians are into bodybuilding. Come on now.
How much you know about Hungarians?
Not a whole lot. Probably not as much as I should.
Was it a Hungary joke?
Now that you mention it, I guess it could have been.
Because I wanted to say that I appreciate none of you telling a hungry joke all this time. But what do you mean by Hungarians being into bodybuilding?
Oh, I just think that there's kind of a stigma, kind of a joking stigma around that whole region. You know, you get like German and Hungarians and all that. There's been skits like Hans
not
and
sure.
Franz on
Yeah,
Saturday night.
I'm not sure. We are not that close to Germany. I mean, we have only one country between us, which is Austria.
Right.
But Austria is a very long country when you look at it like horizontally on the map.
Right. Again,
But
that's
I'm not sure about the bodybuilding trope.
yeah, I think it's just more joking than anything.
Mm.
People think of like Arnold and his accent, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah.
Fun fact about Arnold Schwarzenegger: he wanted to voice himself in the German version of the Terminator, but they didn't let him because his native German accent was kind of a rural accent, I think, and it didn't fit the character at all. So they just had to have another German actor, voice him.
Huh. No, I didn't know that.
I mean, I wouldn't either because ich spreche Deutsch nicht, but it's just something. I mean, I did learn German for a couple of years in the very beginning of primary school.
Me
So
too.
years 1 to 4, because the town I live in used to be a German settlement, so there's still quite a decent size German. What's the word I'm looking for? Community. So the class, I think I did say that when you start learning a language in school, usually you started around the 4th grade in Hungary, but in this specific class, where I guess I happened to be in that class because my mother liked the teacher. We started in grade 1, and I didn't really pick up much German because one day, I think it was my 3rd or 4th year it was very basic German because we were small children. And one day I was watching a German channel and I realized, wait, I don't get any of that. So what's the point of learning German at such a young age if I don't really understand much of? But I still remember some of the basic grammar.
Right. I actually have a friend that's from the Netherlands, and it surprised me. My cousin's fluent in German, and the fact that they could conversate and understand each other was kind of interesting to me, even though it wasn't a direct correlation. You know, I mean,
Was he speaking Dutch, and was your friend speaking German?
yes, but the Dutch friend actually was able to communicate back in, I guess you'd say, fairly. I don't know. It seemed like he was speaking more German than Dutch to me. It sounded that way, but he said he wasn't a fluent German speaker. There was just a little bit of enough crossover in the language that he could understand and communicate.
I guess it's a bit like how there's the Nordic languages are, or like the countries that used to be part of Yugoslavia.
Right.
Sorry.
I was actually watching also a good documentary on Netflix about some of the Hungarian Jews and their persecution. I don't know if you've seen that yet or not, but very sad, but also a very excellent story.
I should look at some of the Netflix documentaries.
Yeah, they're excellent. They're usually very well done.
I mean, I have a tendency to go for nature documentaries, but Some little history also doesn't hurt.
Right. Oh, Clayton says 32 states before 17. Wow, you've seen a lot of the U.S., friend. That is a lot of travel.
Yep.
What does he mean by before 17?
Before
Oh, 17
Before
year.
17
Oh,
years
okay,
of
okay.
age.
Sorry. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I had
Hmm.
lived in like
Hmm.
a couple of different countries by then.
Yeah, Joe, you've probably been around more than any of us.
You know, there
Well,
are
I
those.
haven't lived in 32 states. I've probably been to 32 states, but that's mostly just driving through because I like to take the scenic route sometimes. And the wife, we took some interesting routes to Iowa a few times.
I have a friend from Iowa. He just moved back out there a couple of years ago, and boy, oh boy, those winters are special.
Yeah, some of them are.
Yeah, he sends me back videos, and
You know,
I want to go.
there are those world maps that are covered in gold foil that you can hang up and you can scratch down the countries that you visited, and you can keep track.
Yeah, yeah, that would be cool.
But then, of course, not the current global situation.
Hey Clayton, have you read the Monster Hunter International books? If not, I highly recommend them for you.
Are the books the original? I literally don't know anything about Monster Hunter.
They're not related to the computer game
Oh, so
or the
it's
movie.
not even. Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, they're completely disassociated
Okay, that
or
that goes to
unassociated.
show that goes to show how little I know about this stuff.
I've never read any of them.
What
It's a
comes to
good
my
book
mind is how
series.
there was a news article maybe 10 or so years ago about the guy in the US who was named Harry Potter, and he was named before the any of the Harry Potter books even came out, and I
Oh,
think
really?
I think his full name is Harry. I'm not I don't, maybe Harry Connor something. So I think Harry Connor James Potter, and I think he worked in tech support, and I think it resulted in his workplace. He was the only one who wasn't required to state his full name whenever he was getting a call from a client or something because it was too distracting for people, I guess.
Well, I
Hello,
wonder if
yeah.
you
Hello,
have to wonder. His name's Harry Potter,
yes.
and he works in tech support. I wonder if he dealt with a lot of wizards.
Hmm. Because
I
hi, I'm
know
Harry
it was
Potter.
bad
Hi,
dad
I'm
joke.
Harry Potter. How may I help you? Sounds a bit. It takes you off.
Yeah, yeah, that is interesting. No, oh, yeah, Peter File. Oh boy, oh boy,
Oh,
oh boy. Not touching that one. Uh,
well, that's only ambiguous if you say it in a U.S. accent, I guess.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I just started reading a book actually that a friend of mine had. God, this had to have been back since I was in high school. And I bought it years ago at a used bookstore here in town, and I'd never gotten to it. I need to grab it. 1 second. I can't remember the. Okay, so it's The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. Anyone
Yeah, I've read the entire
fantasy?
series.
Have you?
Yeah, several times.
Oh,
It's one of my favorite
yeah,
book
it's a
series.
dedicated read. I can't even remember how many are in this one.
It's at the second book, or is that the first book? It's 14 books.
14 total? My goodness. Yeah, that's not a light read either. That's 814 pages of fairly small font.
First book? Yeah.
The one book is 800 plus pages.
Yeah, 814. Yeah,
Can you show it from the side?
sure. You want the binding?
Oh, those must be some thin pages. Doesn't look like 800
Oh,
plus
I'm
pages.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not huge font, but yeah, it's a fairly thick book.
Mm.
Anyway, we finally got around to starting it. I don't know how long it'll take.
The audiobooks
3
are pretty
times
good.
at a premium. You know, that's something I didn't even consider to look at if it was in audiobook
All of
form.
them, yeah.
That might be the way to go next time.
Plus, the
Although
Amazon series is starting up soon. This month, I think.
Which one's that?
The Wheel of Time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're doing a
I
series
had no
on
idea.
Amazon, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll have to check that out for sure. Yeah, I'm very, very early in this book, but so far I've enjoyed it. It's certainly on par with anything of the old Wizards of the West Coast stuff.
Now,
I love the old Dragonlance, Forgotten Realms.
I know a lot of people that get bored around book 3, and then that kind of continues on through like book 7 or something. But I really enjoyed the entire series, and I really enjoy rereading the entire series.
Well, I will certainly have to get cracking on it.
So, yeah, this time next year when you're on the 3rd book,
I think you give me too much credit. I'll probably still be halfway through this one.
definitely
We'll
get
see.
the audios, or talk to me later and I'll shoot you the audios.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
I just gotta find which copies are actually good copies.
I just got curious. What else do you know about Hungary besides that bodybuilding stuff, Josh?
Oh, that was just a little bit of a joke.
Well, no, here's the
Hungary.
question. Why don't you like bodybuilding?
Oh,
I didn't say I didn't like bodybuilding. I just wasn't into bodybuilding.
Why aren't you into bodybuilding?
you see, we can only see Norbert's head. We can't really see his gigantic ripped arms right now and his muscular torso.
Oh,
look at there.
Yeah.
Joe's got his beat.
Yeah.
Afraid I'm not even gonna try.
I should probably step up my game.
It's so you can smash the WASD key harder.
The what?
The WASD keys. WASD.
While
you're gaming.
Those. I don't use those because I use the mouse inside my left hand because I'm left-handed. Yeah,
okay.
I know I keep disappointing you. I don't drink. I don't use the West keys.
There's the left one for you.
No disappointed. Oh. Come on, Norbert. It's time for you to show Joe up.
Oh, but you can get started. It's never too late to get started.
I know.
So, get started.
Mm.
Pick up something heavy.
And don't tear your shoulders out like I did.
Or like I did.
I might pick up the Linux from scratch guidebook. That looks heavy enough.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. You could probably work out with it.
Yeah.
Book curls.
You can do those at your desk while you're waiting for something to load. Just do it goblet curl style.
But I use Void Linux. I don't have to wait for anything to load.
While you're watching YouTube videos.
Yeah. No,
That
I
would have been a
sometimes.
great arch, by the way.
Tomorrow, while you're watching Doctor Who,
Yeah. I still haven't finished the previous season. Well, I should probably get back on the treadmill because I haven't really been on it since I got sick. But I guess I'm in a good enough shape for that now. So
yeah, I busted out
and
the glider yesterday because it's been almost too cold to go for a bike ride. So,
so what's a glider?
look up a gazelle.
Gazelle? Just gazelle?
Gazelle
You may
exercise
get an animal.
machine.
Not wait. So how do you spell it?
GAZ. It's just like the animal.
Gazelle machine. Oh, all right. Huh. Oh, I've seen these before.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
super
I just
cheap
didn't
to
know what.
get. I mean, I can pick them up used for like $25. So if it breaks down, falls apart, whatever,
Just
I'll just get it.
just didn't know what they were called. So yeah, sometimes I would put up a YouTube video and be on the treadmill, but my smaller earphones are broken, so I should probably get another pair of those. These little clip-ons that I would use for workout and stuff.
Yeah, what are those treadmills now that have like an Android tablet on them?
Oh no, it's a fairly simple one. It just has a space where you can put up something like.
That's
Yeah.
all you need. I was just God, was it
Mhm.
one of the podcasts? I can't remember. Was it Ubuntu podcast? Maybe Mark Johnson had one, or maybe it's Late Night Linux. I can't remember which one, but they were talking about that treadmill with the Android integration and how it was just really not a pleasant experience.
I mean, I don't think I would have a need for that. I mean, what does it do?
It essentially gives you think of like a trainer, but so it's sort of like you're in a class. Yeah, Peloton. Thank you, Leo. Yeah, Peloton. Yeah, and he was talking
I would
about how
love a Peloton, but yeah, I can't afford that.
Right. Pricey. Yeah, pricey. And then I think he was saying something about how updates kind of bricked it or something like that.
Yeah, your starting price on most Pelotons is like in the $2,000 range.
Yeah,
So,
that's a lot.
it would be fun. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to, race people from the comfort of my own home. But that's a large investment. And then when you're looking at updates that brick it, that makes for a very, very angry Joe.
Right. Oh, sorry. Built for comfort, not for speed. That's my motto. Of course, I'll probably have a heart attack by the time I'm 55, but
Well, biking is fun. I don't care what anybody says.
Biking's a great experience.
Yeah, I love getting on my bike and just going around the block.
You bet. Matter of fact, I might do a little bit of that today as well.
Depends on how cold it depends on how much I have to bundle up.
It's still pretty cold outside right now.
Oh, right now it's not bad. It's let me see, 66.
We're at 60.
Yeah.
Oh, we're at 67. So yeah, very similar.
As long as it
Fahrenheit,
doesn't drop down to like 30 or something.
Yeah, because at Steep, some of my teas at 66 Celsius.
Celsius.
Yeah.
Kelvin.
CGP Grey, right?
What is it?
CGP Grey? He does educational videos on YouTube.
Oh, no. I've never heard of it.
He was on a podcast and he made a very interesting argument. He said that for all any measurements, he prefers the standardized ones, but except one for temperature, he prefers Fahrenheit. I'm not sure what his I didn't give really much of a reasoning, but I was trying to think of a reasoning. And someone on Reddit, I think, said that Fahrenheit is convenient because if we use Fahrenheit, then you don't really have to deal with temperatures below in your everyday below 0 or above 100.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
I guess.
Incorrect.
But I guess everyone is biased because everyone's using either of the two. But I think Celsius makes a lot of sense in the kitchen because water boils at 100. So so that's the highest the water can get. So for example, steeping tea, when I have to keep in mind that okay, so for black tea I would need water that's near boiling point. For green tea, for a little bit less. So for cooking and boiling stuff, I would say Celsius makes more sense. But yeah, I guess if for weather reports and stuff, I could see how Fahrenheit could be a good system.
Right. Of course, we do go below 0 depending on where you're at. If you're talking like,
Yeah,
Alaska,
don't go to
then
Iowa.
of course. Or Iowa, right? Yeah.
There was a crazy chart about what measurements Canadians use, and they sometimes use both imperial and standardized ones depending on what they are doing. So, for example, they would I think they would use Celsius in the kitchen, but Fahrenheit when it comes to weather. It's weird.
Well, I'll tell you, I hate recipes that don't use grams.
Yeah.
I
When
hate
you have to use a quarter of a cup of something, but how big is the cup? I guess
exact.
I know
Well, not only that, is it a heaping quarter of a cup?
how can you have a heaping quarter of a cup?
If it comes over the
Well,
top
you
of
just
the
pile
cup,
it on.
just that little bit. Not only that, but if it settles differently in my cup than it settles in the cup that they were measuring from at the time, it's definitely imprecise.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I would measure by the glass.
I still prefer by the gram. Like this screwball here, as an estimate, it's 50 milliliters, so that's approximately 50 grams, and probably comes out to about 100 calories. But I have to go with probably.
Okay, I found the chart. So it's I'm not sure how credible it is because it was just posted around the internet. So it says for speed, Canadians use metric. For temperature, if it's for wait, it says for cooking, they use Fahrenheit. That's weird.
Well, Canada's kind of an interesting place anyway
And
because
they
you have
would use
English
Celsius.
speaking, you have French Canadian. Yeah, it's interesting. My cousin actually married a French Canadian lady, so he lives up there.
It's interesting. Also, it is for measuring mass. If it's someone's weight, then it would be in pounds, and otherwise it would still usually be pounds, except for some. It's a weird chart. It says if it's very heavy, they might use kilograms.
Why wouldn't they use moles?
Or stone.
So,
I always am a fan of stone.
If you want precision, there's nothing like moles.
Moles.
yeah, so it looks like the people's height and weight they would do in imperial, but they also use a metric system.
Yeah, I think
that's because of their neighbors.
Probably. Yeah.
It's also when it comes to measuring volume. It says for cooking it's cups and spoons, but for everything else it is metric. You know what's the most confusing for me? That the metric ton and the imperial ton have almost the same name, but they are different.
Yeah, same with the U.S. gallon and imperial gallon.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, it actually is.
Yeah. Then also the mile and the what's the one they use on sea.
Not nautical mile.
Nautical mile.
Or
Yeah.
not. Yes. Yeah, whatever the measurement is, I can't recall offhand.
I think the nautical mile is longer because of the curvature. I don't know how it works.
Neither do I. I'm not that smart.
I mean, it's not that we're not smart. You just never had to use nautical miles.
In my case, it's definitely because I'm not smart. Blissfully ignorant. That's how I go about life. How many barley corns is that?
Sorry?
Mark in the chat put,
Yeah.
how many barley corns is that? Good question. Barley's quite small. Corn kernels are quite small. I imagine a whole lot.
I guess there's also the elephant in the room how the US has stuck with imperial measurements for such a long time.
Yeah. Well, they did in the 70s attempt to convert, but they confused people at the gasoline pumps. So they didn't know if they were being ripped off or not. So there was quite a backlash from the public about it. And they reversed course and just went back to the standard system over here, the U.S. Imperial system.
I said let's go. It's not worth it.
So I guess due to sheer stubbornness, we hold out.
You can kick my ass.
1 foot.
1 foot, Erickson. Let's go.
Oh, we're not done.
I think we are.
Well, I guess you'd just rather play with this pole then. You little
Is
shit.
it true that a lot of American schools don't teach cursive writing anymore?
Yes, that is true.
Very true.
There is a bit of a shock for me.
Yes, same here.
And they changed completely how they teach math.
Yeah,
that's
there's
true
that
as well.
there's that meme. Math is math.
Right.
And if you
Love
know,
that.
help your kids using the way that you know and you show your work, they get in trouble.
Yes, sir. Experience that firsthand. What is that? Common Core, they call it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you've
Yeah.
seen the trailer to the Pixar's The Incredibles 2. It came out a few years
No.
ago. Yeah, there was a scene where... have you seen the first Incredibles?
Yes.
I think a long time ago.
Yeah. So Bob is trying to help his son with math homework, and he is completely lost because apparently they changed math.
I don't think
Yeah.
that was the first
And-
one. I
and-
think that was the second one.
Yeah. And he just bursts out. Why would they change math? Math is math, and math is math. But I'm not sure. Yeah. There are a couple of letters that they used to teach they were written in cursive differently a couple of decades ago over here. For example, the letter R. I'm not sure how it was taught in the US. So I'm not sure because I've switched from cursive writing to not cursive writing around 7th grade because I felt more comfortable with it. Also, my cursive was very ugly. It wasn't nice. I know that one of my teachers would only accept essays and stuff handwritten because her argument was that as long as the high school, I'm not sure what they call it in the US, the exam that you take at the end of high school to get your diploma, or I'm not sure if do you have those tests, until they require you to write them by hand, because we have those tests. She also requires us to hand in our assignments by hand, written by hand.
Right, yeah.
I can't say I have written much by hand since I graduated high school.
Oh, Leo.
Yes.
Yeah,
physics
I
and
haven't
calculus.
either.
Ooh.
Sometimes
Yes,
when I
Leo
have,
defending
yeah,
Common Core math. Yeah,
Man,
and you know,
I mean,
a lot of Common Core math does make it easier to do math in your head when you're doing a modular style math. But I don't know if it actually would help with higher level math.
yeah, I made it to trigonometry and promptly dropped it and went into home ec. That's as far
Well,
as I got.
in college, I did Cal 3, and Cal 3 was a whole lot easier than probabilistic methods, in my opinion. I know a lot of people found probabilistic methods and probability and statistics to be a lot easier than calculus, but I found calculus a lot easier. Don't ask me to do calculus now, but yeah.
Nope, I'm from the land of 1 bull plus 1 cow equals 1 calf. That's
The
about it.
place where 1 plus 1 equals 3. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm in a heavy ag area, so math is, yeah. I mean, that's stuff they teach in school, but yeah, not too useful, I guess, on the dairies and all the farmland out here.
It can be. I mean, you can estimate yield using mathematics.
You could, yeah, and I'm sure, for construction and all that, but
Yield over
in terms of
time
advanced.
and your expected profit based on yield, based on local market prices. Math is useful everywhere. A lot of people use math all the time and they
Mm.
don't even realize that they're doing it because it's so integral to their daily life. But that that's just my opinion. I mean,
Mm.
Yeah, I think in terms of, I don't think you're going to be Pythagorean theory
Yeah.
and all that out here. It's just, I don't know. I'm from a very redneck area of California. People have like this idea that California is like beaches and mountains and all this beautiful area, and it's not like that here. It's
Well, you could
flat and boring.
Pythagorean theorem could be useful. For example, if for some reason you wanted to
calculate the height of
set the
something.
boundaries of a set the boundary of a trigonal plot, or maybe I'm not sure if that's a common thing.
Couldn't tell you. Like I said, land of the stupid over here.
I know that one time in a video game I actually had to pull up a right triangle calculator to decide what direction I should go based on coordinates. So
Right.
Well, I actually had to do this thing in my early 20s where I actually had to, read a map and calculate the angle I needed to be walking in order to be able to get to X location and the amount of steps that it would take to get there based on my own walking gait. And you also had to
Oh my
calculate
goodness.
how your gait changes as you get more tired so that way that you could keep your proper pace count. So yeah.
that's almost the same thing that I said, but just much more badass.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what reminded me of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it
Oh, and
looks
then
like
using
Leo
an
has
azimuth
opinions on
circle.
this.
Oh, I hated the azimuth circle. Not because I couldn't like do all the calculations with the azimuth circle and everything, but the azimuth circles that the military had and made by the cheapest bidder, it was really really difficult to keep them level. To get them level in the first place, and then keep them level, and then use the azimuth circle to actually plot what you're doing.
Hmm.
So
How's
glad
history taught?
GPS fixed
Yeah.
that.
Just a random thought. How is history taught in the US? Because
Poorly.
we had yeah, I mean no, I mean
Disingenuous.
Look,
what I mean is what I mean is we had a exchange student from the US at one time, and she was reading a textbook titled World History, and it was weird at first, but I guess it makes sense because uh,
not just whitewashed.
history, yeah, yeah, because the world history over here is mostly European history, and since we are almost in the middle of Europe, the books can be structured in a way when it wouldn't be just world history and the history for our country. It would be just books like history 1 through 4, and then it will usually just between one chapter is like European history, the other chapter is Hungarian history, because it can be integrated. But so do you have is it broken down as world history and the history of the US, or how is it broken down for you?
Yeah, technically it is broken down that way, but mostly what it comes down to is the only thing we give a crap about is U.S. history. And not
Right.
only that, but there's a major argument going on right now about critical race theory. I don't know if you're
Oh
aware
boy.
of what critical race theory is, but it's a major hot button topic right now in all the schools across the U.S., but especially in Texas.
Heavily politicized, yeah.
Yeah, in Texas you had that. I didn't grow up in the Texas schools, Leo. But everybody wants to debate whether or not critical race theory is an actual thing, but there's this worldwide maxim that history is written by the victors, and granted that's applied towards war, but you can also apply that towards everything else. The people in power write the history, so they're obviously going to try and make themselves look the best, which is, yes, how history being written the way it is and taught the way it is makes it seem so whitewashed, as it were. And yes, that is a problem, and no, I don't know how to fix it.
Right,
Well,
because
certain-
CRT almost goes, I think, almost too far the other direction. I think there needs to be a little middle ground.
Now, tell me, in the Hungarian schools, do you have this thing like we have in the US where basically they give you a super, super soft, cuddly version of history in grade school, and then they give you a slightly more harsh version of history in middle school, and then an even slightly more harsh version of history in high school that almost touches the truth and gives you hints about the horrible things that actually went on, but not really, because they're trying to build that nationalism and national pride within you.
Mhm. Well, I guess here world history gets a fairly bigger cut of the curriculum, so I'm not sure. I mean, it also depends on the teachers. I mean, there was a teacher that I had for around 1 year that was also telling us about how I think it was Alexander the Great how he would torture people by tying them up, planting bamboo under them that grows like more than an inch a day, and they would just tie them by the hands and legs and lay them on top of that, and this would just slowly grow through them. So I mean that
Learned
that
from
was
Vlad the
well.
Impaler.
Yeah, that's what
Oh,
it sounded
okay.
like.
I think
Yeah,
yeah.
where you'd insert it through a certain orifice and it would come out the mouth, and
Slowly over time.
Yeah.
So what you described made me think about how the colonization of the U.S. and how they treated the natives is
Oh yeah,
taught in the U.S.
it's not.
So
Terrible.
It's not really
Yeah.
taught. I mean, the things like the Trail of Tears is vaguely touched on in school, but they kind of skip over the point where the U.S. government forced the Native Americans to move off specific land that had already been given to them because they found value on that land in the form of gold, and ship them off to somewhere else that they found completely useless and watch them die along the whole way.
And isn't it sad that, they're
So-
parsing out the land to the people that originally inhabited
So
it?
is this a good example of what CRT is trying to achieve?
Essentially,
Yeah.
critical race theory is the theory that history is diluted and
Whitewashed.
made to seem better towards essentially white people because they're the people that were in power. So
I mean, there is some truth to it.
Absolutely.
For example, yeah. So
Sure. But I think in many cases, people are objecting to it because I think they see it as being more political than historical. So I think they're taking it as something that's coming from, I guess you'd say, a more left or progressive angle. And
Well-
people that are more towards the conservative side are having an issue with it. So there's kind of this war that's between two political parties
people
fighting over
essentially
CRT.
don't want to teach actual history because actual history is a lot of horrible
Ugly.
things that happened, and they want that feel-good history passed on to their kids because they don't want their kids to go through the trauma of, oh, my ancestors were a bunch of bastards.
Right. And if you look back, Norbert, on that documentary that I was telling you about, there was actually some mention of Hungarian Nazis that persecuted the Hungarian Jews. So, like, if you think of it, in your own history, do you go back when you're in school and do you hear a lot about Hungarian Nazis?
I agree with you, Leo, 100%.
I think it's laid out pretty reasonable because so Hungary was with the Axis powers because Hitler promised to give back the territories that Hungary lost after World War One. So I mean that's straight up how it's taught. So it's not like they're trying to cover it up over here.
But right. But I mean, it's just kind of. I guess what I'm trying to say is there's
Yo,
ugly
so
truths,
mhm,
in everybody's
yeah.
history, and
Yeah,
over
so
here,
yeah, so basically, you mean the Holocaust?
in this case, yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, over here we had the poor treatment of American Indians. We had the black slaves, of course.
The poor treatment of the
There's a lot of
Irish, the poor treatment of the
Irish,
Chinese,
yeah,
the
right,
Japanese internment
labor
camps.
camps.
You do
Yep,
not learn about the Japanese internment camps at all through
none.
high school.
Mm.
Yep. All that
I
stuff
mean,
is ugly, and that's what Leo, I
mm,
think, was
mm.
saying is whitewashed. You just get taught this very feel good, like, oh, the Pilgrims were here and broke the Indians, and
No, the
Christopher Columbus
Pilgrims
and
were
all this.
here, and Thanksgiving is all about how we were friendly with the Indians, but they don't get into the
Right,
topic of
Mm.
the mass genocide. And yes, there is
right.
some talk about what's the words I'm looking for, Leo, where the westward expansion was mandated by God or whatever, manifest destiny. Um,
Yeah, manifest
they
destiny.
talk
Yeah,
about manifest destiny and how that was a good thing, and then they don't talk about how smallpox blankets that is the genocide that we're
right.
speaking of. But um, manifest destiny and that westward expansion of European colonists and how essentially that manifest destiny was taking land away from people that had owned it, or well, not necessarily owned it, but lived on it for
Inhabited, yeah.
thousands and thousands of years.
And a lot of Mexican population too. Let's not forget about those that were down south, and
Yeah, let's not
you
talk
know,
about more recent history on that, like not like yesterday or anything, but the U.S. conquering Mexico and then giving it back to them because they had too many Catholics.
right. Yeah, there's been a lot of black guys, I guess you would say, in U.S. history. Now, I don't think that makes the U.S. a horrible country. I think every country has its issues in the past,
But if you
but
don't learn
they're
from the
certainly
past,
right. It definitely needs to be taught. It has its place, but again,
Mm.
this has become an issue that's
Mm.
become very politicized, and it's, I think, being utilized in that way. And I think it's becoming less and less about the education
Mm.
aspect of it and more of a political hot button
Mm.
issue to get people elected to office.
it's
Mm.
more of a polarizing issue than anything else.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've
right.
done horrible things in our past and we've tried to learn from them. That should be the whole point of what we're teaching in schools.
Also, when you said they're supposedly trying to spare kids from trauma of having learned about what their ancestor did, but if it's an ancestor that lived hundreds of years ago, that it you can and you never even met them, it's it could be reasonable not to feel bad because it's basically
I'm not going to blame
it,
myself for the
yeah, yeah,
actions of a guy 200 years ago,
yeah,
even if he
yeah,
is related to me.
yeah. Even if less than 100 years ago. So I think when it comes to Germany, most of the people who have been alive during World War II are either very old or or not alive anymore. So the vast majority of German population, especially the younger people, they weren't nowhere around when the Holocaust happened. So
That's exactly.
I would also don't blame that the German youth, except of course extremists, but that's another question. But general, I would not blame the current general German public at all for the Holocaust and World War II because it wasn't them. It was Germany, but it wasn't its Germany.
Right. I think Germany today is a much more progressive place than, well, a lot of places on the planet. So,
And
uh,
they have great
yeah.
beer.
And most importantly, they have the world's finest beer, in my opinion, to make light of a heavier situation or heavier topic. But Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of negative. I mean, I think it's not represented equally though. As Joe pointed out earlier, I'm primarily of Irish and English descent in my bloodline, and you rarely hear of the poor treatment of the Irish. And Irish in many cases were treated worse than slaves. At least slaves were considered property. So people
No, that is
owned
actually
them,
the correct
you know.
terminology. They were considered a commodity. Yes, they were slaves, but the difference is they were considered a commodity and were fed, while the
Right.
Irish had to watch their children starve, despite the fact that they were working all hours of the day and night trying to feed them.
Right. They were disposable. They were, yeah. So, by many accounts, the Irish were treated even worse than slaves were. So,
But
but you
the
don't see that
Irish were
ever
treated
addressed.
exceptionally poorly alongside the Chinese. I would actually say the Chinese had it worse than the Irish during that time frame,
Indeed.
especially with the construction of the cross-continental railroads.
Oh, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And yeah, if you look back into old newspaper clippings, I mean, there was, a lot of very derogatory, cartoonish embellishments of a lot of these ethnicities. Irish were
Well,
considered drunks and fighters and, just cantankerous people.
mhm.
And Chinese and Japanese, a lot of the Asian cultures were depicted very poorly as well. I mean, across the board, but yeah, there's a
And
lot of ugly.
Germans were treated exceptionally well, but that was because they generally came over with very strong skill sets.
Right.
So I don't know much about CRT, but history can be distorted in both directions. And I guess if a movement is not trying to distort it in too much in the other direction, but bring it back more towards the middle, it's fine.
Well,
Right.
a lot of the critical race theory stuff hits on the topics that we're already talking about, but then again, it's also talking about the forgotten people of
Mhm.
color that have done very historical things.
Mhm.
Much like no one really remembers the name of the guy that invented peanut butter or the cotton gin. Matter of fact,
Right.
I'll have to look up his name. Uh,
Was it the same person?
Oh, the Tulsa Massacre. Yeah.
Eli Whitney? Hold on. Eli Whitney was the inventor of the cotton gin. Well, it says Eli Whitney, so yeah, that's a white guy. So I'm actually wrong on that one. But peanut butter, Marcellus Gilmore Edison.
How about the automobile muffler, Joe? Try that one.
I will have to look up that one.
Mm-hmm.
Was actually supposed to be George Washington Carver.
Yeah, Londoner got it right here in the comments.
Developed
By the
hundreds of
way, welcome
products
to
using peanuts, though not peanut butter as is often claimed. So yeah, I was also wrong about that one.
welcome to the heaviest version of the Roundtable there may have ever been. We're diving into some pretty tough stuff here.
Welcome to mintCast, and today we're going to be talking about critical race theory.
Yeah, a little CRT with a
Oh, you mean Catholic
side
YouTube television, right?
side of propagandism and who knows?
Yeah.
Goodness.
And in this week's Innards, we are going to talk about CRT television.
Yeah, CRT monitors.
Yeah.
They were heavy. They were very heavy.
Almost
I
the same
know
as
that
this
because I
episode.
used to LAN party with them.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. 5,000 to 1,000. I'm seeing 2 watching now in the stream.
Have you heard about Henrietta Lacks?
Who is that?
Henrietta Lacks. She died in the 50s, or maybe 50, I think 51 or 52. She was a black woman who went to, I'm not sure what state she lived in. It's somewhere in one of the southern states, and she was diagnosed with I think it was cervical cancer, some form of cancer, and they took a sample of her cells, and they
Right.
without her consent, and
Right, yes.
they tried to culture these cells in a petri dish because they've been cancer cells have had tendency not to die, because cancer is basically when a cell breaks, it can perform its function properly. It auto self destructs. It kills itself. But if a faulty cell cannot kill itself and keeps multiplying, that's a cancer cell. So basically, people have been trying to culture cancer cells for a long time, in a way that they would stay alive, quite, I guess, indefinitely in the lab. And Henriette Lax's cells I'm actually getting goosebumps talking about this, because it was major big news in science, because it was the first time they actually could keep alive the cells that didn't die, and her cell line is even alive today, and
Yeah,
use it. And
immortality,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So basically, there's a book titled "The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks," because her cells been used in various experiments, from like vaccines and stuff. So when it comes to medical people whose cells or whose bodies have been used for medical tests, she's by far the most important one in history. But the fact is that they took her cells without her consent, without her even knowing about it, and for many decades, her family didn't receive any benefits from it, and I think there were lawsuits, and it was a messy legal situation. I think after quite some time, I should probably read into it more. They could settle it, but yeah. So basically, it's called the HeLa, AGLA, HeLa cell line. It's they are all found practically in every big laboratory around the world, and it also ties into, I guess, the 50s was also when the civil movement was starting, right, with Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks.
Yeah, about there.
So
So the
yeah.
60s was when it really reached its peak. Yeah.
So I think
I just-
they took her cells in early 1951, and she died that year later, somewhere in October, I think. Died Baltimore. So born Virginia. Where is the Johns Hopkins Institute? Because she went into the Johns Hopkins hospital. They were the ones who did
can't recall offhand.
Hopkins. Okay, in Baltimore. And she also had to travel to Baltimore from a couple of cities away, I think, because that was the only hospital where they would accept people of color at the time.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, the treatment of people. Like I said, man, I always go back to the Bill and Ted's excellent adventure quote. Just be excellent to each other, right? I mean, that's really the bottom line. It's unfortunate that we have to find ways to be so tribalistic and divisive towards one another. I mean, and you see that even in the Linux community. You know, it's the Arch, by the way, or Ubuntu. You know, you see persecution on every level.
Well, I'll admit to being somewhat guilty of that when it comes to Linux, but a lot of times that's the let me Google that for you.
Right. Well, I mean, depending on where a person's coming from, if they're extremely non-technical, then I don't expect them to know how to Google it. But if you are capable of, flashing a thumb drive or something, then yeah, maybe you should have tried that first. And Leo says the truth is out there. And to quote, there's a podcast out there from Hysteria 51. It's the truth is out there, but you won't find it here.
There are a couple of Linux Telegram groups around specific distros that have in the rules that they do not support other distros. That you cannot talk about other distros there. But for example, I joined the Invaders group, and it's really nice, and people talk about all sorts of distros, and it's really so. The community around the Invaders is a lot more,
Very
a lot friendlier
yeah.
than the Arch. Yeah.
And that's what it should be. It should be inclusivity. And that's the way that, for those that are concerned with Linux growing its market share, that's really what needs to happen, is more inclusivity and less of the, it's this way or the highway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Leo mentioned the Tulsa massacre, but another major one that never gets taught in schools is the Black Wall Street massacre, simply because people of color were making too much money.
Right.
That earlier came to my mind earlier. I wanted to look into it to make certain. So the people who published the solution to the structure of DNA were Francis and Crick, and James Watson was he's known to have made a lot of controversial comments on race, mainly on how the intelligence of a certain race of people might be in their genetics, but there is actually no scientific proof to back that up. And he actually had some of his honorary titles revoked by a laboratory that granted them to him. Because even so he's one of the biggest, most well-known names because of his how he's one of the people who published the search of the DNA. But even such a well-known and a scientist who's held in such a high regard can have such, I would say, distorted views mainly because if there's no obvious scientific proof that shows any correlation between the genetics and intelligence of races, there, then it doesn't really make sense for him to claim things like that.
Right. And I think that comes back to the larger point. That,
sorry, I tend to speak a lot. I should try to condense my sentences.
No, it's fine. I think what you're saying, human beings are human beings, and it doesn't really matter about ethnicity. I think we found that out in the Olympics, right? When back in the Nazi days, you remember Hitler had this idea of the master race, and they were going to dominate everybody at the Olympics, and then they were humbled a bit in that regard. And
what's ironic is how Hitler described the pure Aryan person as having blonde hair and blue eyes, but he himself had none of those.
And I believe of Jewish descent too, wasn't he?
I think it was ambiguous that one of his grandparents might have been Jews, and he couldn't. I think he was trying to find something that would disprove that, but I'm not sure if it was either confirmed or denied.
Yeah, it's tough to say, but yeah, you're right. Either way, there was hypocrisy in his views and a lot of misleading there. But it was all to serve a greater purpose for him. In his eyes, anyway.
Having mentioned the Amazon TV series, has any of you seen or read Men in the High Castle?
I started it. I didn't get more than maybe 2 or 3 episodes in, and I wish I would have continued with it. It looked like it had a lot of promise.
Yeah, from season 2, it gets kind of good. Not as much in the storytelling, but rather in presenting the world.
Right.
So basically, it's what would America be like if the Nazis won the war and they would have colonized North America.
I'm glad that's not the case.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's not. I can't imagine what would have happened. That guy was,
and it's
obviously
interesting. It's interesting to see how in the show they the western part, the western coast was given to the Japanese, and it's interesting how it is shown in this show that how the Japanese have the rules that they mandate in the West are much lighter than what the Germans have people follow in the East. For example, in the show's world, for example, Japanese people tolerate Jews living in there. For example, whether it's the Reich part of the North America doesn't. And it's interesting because by law on paper, I think both of the colonies shouldn't tolerate them, but the Japanese were just less strict about it. I'm not sure if that. I'm not sure if that would be a realistic scenario.
Right, but it's an interesting premise, yeah.
Because the Japanese are also very patriotic.
Yes.
When it comes to them.
Well, just an unfortunate time period, that whole thing. As a matter of fact, I watched a documentary that was showing that really the Nagasaki and Hiroshima nuclear attacks weren't even necessary because at that point Japan wasn't even a threat any longer. They were already basically done. And the premise of that was that we were just needing to test the nuclear weapons. So under the guise of the war, we went in there and dropped those bombs and slaughtered millions of people that were completely innocent.
Yes, but they've already done tests in the desert, right? Before that.
They had, but
so it's not like it's not like they didn't know how big the destruction would be.
I think they wanted to see the devastation. I think they wanted to see what effect it would have on a human population.
And they also wanted everyone to see what they are capable of.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate.
You know how at the beginning of the First World War, people were generally positive about it because it was a fairly long period of peace before it, and so because there wasn't a major war for a long time, and technology has advanced so much. They, on one hand, they didn't really know how it would go. On the other hand, they were actually happy about finally there was a war because they thought it would be over very quickly because of their past experiences with other wars. But because of how trench warfare became a thing, because of the advanced weapons, I don't think anyone predicted trench warfare at that point.
Right.
So in a way, World War I was inevitable because it would have happened at one point because people had to realize because no one has seen modern warfare in action before.
Yeah. And that's the kind of military complex.
Yeah. So even if Franz Ferdinand wasn't assassinated, I'm pretty sure that a war was inevitable at one point. So it would have happened. I mean, World War I, it wasn't nearly as bad as World War II, but so I'm not sure if World War II could have been avoided because the UN was founded after World War II, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
And,
so would something like the UN have been founded if there was only just the First World War?
Well,
because
a lot of World War II stems from the fact that World War I happened and the reparations and treatment of Germany after World War I. Where were they supposed to go? Where were they?
Yeah.
It isolated them from the rest of the world. It basically already had the rest of the world pitted against them. So.
Yeah, they were sanctioned, but they also reaped the benefit of. I mean, America did pay for a large portion of their rebuild and pump money into their economy, which had been, struggling. So it did help them. For instance, Volkswagen. I mean, they were pretty much done. They couldn't do anything, and they rebuilt their factories, and became one of the world's, if not,
Mhm.
I believe, the world's number one automaker. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with that, really.
Mhm.
But to the point of the guys in the chat, I'm also seeing only one watching now. So I'm imagining everyone just logging off and logging in, one at a time.
Yeah. I certainly wasn't expecting us to talk about this kind of stuff.
No, we've gone
But
way off the grid here.
Yeah, but it was very insightful. I'm actually glad that we.
Yeah, it's
history.
fun conversation.
I mean, because the point of teaching,
somber.
because the point of teaching history is to prevent it from happening again. So
You would think.
So
Yet
if
we
you,
continue to repeat over and over.
I mean, because it's not taught properly
True.
in a lot of places.
Can't disagree with that.
Mm.
So on that
Well,
note,
the whole point of school, in general, is to learn all the things that people have learned before you, and then build on that. So yeah.
not
Yes.
anymore. It's indoctrinate. It's let's download our ideologic or our political stances and ideology into children now. At least that's what it seems like.
Well, it's
And I
kind
think
of
that's
been that
why a
way
lot of
for a
people have
long time.
problems.
So
Oh, agreed. Yeah,
for the
I mean,
indoctrination and the building of nationalism and
Yeah.
country
But you
pride.
could- Yeah, but you could also argue that it was broken always broken, and you can have the same argument about politics, that politics never worked properly in the history of anything.
Oh, never does. And then you could incorporate religion into that. I mean, there's so many avenues that you could bring in, and I mean, this show could go on for months, and you get nowhere in a hurry.
I mean, when it comes to history and politics, I think it can be summed up pretty simply, is that religion should be respected as long as it's within reasonable boundaries. For example, when people claim that they have an exception from the mask mandates because of their religion, but their religion doesn't actually claim that they would have such a thing anywhere.
Right.
At least not Christians. I'm not sure if
actually the Bible. I'd have to look up the sections of it again. The Bible actually talks about keeping distance during plagues and things like that, and protections that you can take, and constantly washing your hands when that's required, and et cetera, et cetera. But
I mean,
religious
if
exemption.
If the idea has been around for that long, I guess people really don't learn. I think there's a black and white photo from the 1920s Spanish flu epidemic, where people were wearing masks. One of them is holding a sign that says "Wear a mask or go to jail." But then one of the people next to them is wearing their mask under their nose. So even that has been around for 100 years, not wearing your mask properly.
Well, the schools in Mexico or near the border have been having masks on whenever there's a major flu outbreak for as long as my wife can remember, and she always used to live right on the border. So it's not like this is a new thing.
No.
Just for COVID.
But there is a lot of contention around the fact that these cloth masks, how much do they actually capture? How effective are they with a disease that's aerosolized?
Certainly a lot more than the masks back in the 1920s, which were even.
The point of the mask isn't to protect you; it's to protect everybody else. So it's not about preventing water vapor from getting into your mouth and nose. It's to prevent the water vapor coming out of your mouth and nose from getting on everybody else.
Because when the water vapor comes out and it effectively vaporizes, and there's only the viral particles that can get through the mask. But when you are when the water vapor comes out, the water vapor particles are bigger than the virus, so the mask can catch them.
And
But I saw a
even if
doctor
it's
at a
not
PTA meeting that
even if it's not 100% effective, which, obviously it's not 100% effective, if it's only 50% effective, that still reduces transmission.
Yeah.
right. But I think you see people that have got various
Yeah.
input on this situation, and I
This-
saw a doctor arguing at a PTA meeting, saying that the masks were essentially
Yeah.
0% effective
Mhm.
because the coronavirus particle
Yeah.
or were so small that even a cloth mask
Mhm.
did nothing. And he said unless you were requiring everyone to
Even
wear an N95 certified mask, he said that's
Okay.
the only way that you would
even
prevent.
if the particles of COVID are smaller than the holes in the mask, there's still the statistical probability that as those particles are exiting your mouth, that they're going to hit the mask and be stopped.
Right. Yeah, I'm with that.
The mouth and also the nose, because people would argue that there's a much higher probability of you transmitting the particles through your mouth. But actually, the cells that are lining the inside of your nasal cavity, especially I'm not sure what they're called in English, the cells that you're the the receptor cells that you smell with, olfactory cells. They are olfactory cells. They are very high. They have very high numbers of that specific receptor that the coronavirus uses to enter. So that tissue, the olfactory tissue, is especially tends to to get infected. And when that's the case, I'm not sure, but I would assume that you were most likely to transmit the virus to your nose as you would be through your mouth. So even if you cover your mouth, it doesn't do much good.
Well, see, this is another
wearing
thing
the mask
where the
properly
science,
involves covering the nose, yes.
Yeah.
right. And I think this is another area that's just been highly politicized and just become another divisive note within society.
Yes, but my argument for that is that the virus doesn't care about politics, so it's not
Right.
doesn't make
It
sense to
should be.
politicize.
It should be about the science. Honestly,
Yeah.
just bottom line. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, people they can't just leave it at that. It
but
becomes
it's also
an issue.
it's also a matter whether a specific state requires to wear a mask. But then it also depends on, for example, school boards. So one really good thing that came out of Hungarian schools being nationalized is that when the Hungarian state says, okay, from next Monday, everyone will be wearing a mask in school, then the very Monday, everyone will be wearing a mask at school, end of question. So it can be, wearing mask can be implemented much quicker this way.
Well, it
Because
doesn't work that way in America.
because-
If you were to have that, you'd have people. Yeah, I mean, you're stepping on my freedoms. You can't do that. That's dictatorial.
That's communism.
Communism, socialism. We can't have those words here.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You don't need to have that. They just need a better educational system.
Well, that's a whole other can of worms.
I mean, it's
As
not
if
like
we haven't opened enough already.
it's not like the educational system is great here either. So, yeah.
Well, considering how much money we dump towards the school systems as it is, we should have better schools. But there are too many
top flight schools. Yeah.
There are too many sticky hands along the way. Too many wheels that need greased in order for anything to happen.
As is everything in our government, really. So,
yeah.
Well, yeah, another nice light topic.
Yep.
So,
yeah. As I talk out my ass about things I don't really understand.
Same here. It's what I do best. I never have any idea what I'm speaking on. Just opinionated, not educated.
Yeah, I'm just glad to be able to speak English on a weekly basis. So.
Yeah. Leo, I'm telling you, we're gonna bring you back on, brother. You're gonna have to put in your 2 cents here.
Well, Leo
Yeah,
could be jumping on this anytime he wanted to, so
You betcha.
yes,
he
but
knows how
I
to
do
get
think
here.
I do think it would be great. It would be great to have him for the LPIC1 topic, because this topic it was made for him. It was made for him.
Yeah. There you go. Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah. Clayton says he has a friend in the hospital with COVID on a ventilator. 74, didn't get vaccinated. Well, there's a lot of people, I'd say right now, that don't believe that don't believe in the vaccine, or they believe that it's more harmful than helpful.
Or
So
that there's not
it's,
enough
again,
data yet on the vaccine. I got one friend that
Right.
says that said that he wouldn't get the vaccine until it was FDA approved, and then when Pfizer got approved, he was like, "No, I'm going to wait for Moderna to get approved because that one has better benefits or things like that."
Yeah.
The thing about vaccines in general, any kind of vaccine, is it's something that Dr. Fauci said, and it stuck with me, is that vaccines don't tend to have long-term side effects. So if someone has been vaccinated and they had not have any side effects for maybe 4 months, 3 to 4 months, then the chance of them having any side effects a year or years later is almost zero.
You do.
And as
There was a vaccine, I believe it was in the 60s or 70s, I can't remember exactly, that didn't cause any adverse side effects to the people that took it, but then did contribute to birth defects in their children. Don't ask me which one it was. I vaguely remember reading the article on it, and a lot of people quoting that when they're talking about the why they don't want to take the vaccine now.
Yeah.
Yes, but also it's been 60 years ago.
Yeah.
And medical science has improved, so it's not even the same type of vaccine.
And everybody wants to say that this is a a new vaccine when really it's not. This is a vaccine that was modified, and it's not a new idea injecting proteins that similarly match a virus in order to teach the body how to fight the virus. So you can't really
about
say
the mRNA.
Yeah. Even the mRNA, it's not even a protein. Your body, your cells make the protein then. But so there was a SARS outbreak in the early 2000s, and of course they didn't know how severe it will be, so they started working on the vaccine back then. But then the SARS kind of went away because it was like this coronavirus, but it was kind of bad at its job, because so the current coronavirus you become a transmitter before you produce symptoms. The SARS virus you would produce symptoms before you could transmit to other people. So if you would notice the symptoms early on, then you wouldn't infect anyone.
Okay.
So that's how
it
went away.
Thalidomide from the 50s that caused it, and it only caused it in women that were pregnant when they took it.
I would imagine that was a fairly narrow slice of the populace who took it.
Well, I think what it boils down to is that people became leery of this because of the speed at which it was pushed through, and they don't feel it was properly tested.
Yes, but it was pushed. It wasn't just pushed through. It was very. They also put a lot of effort in it because it was very urgent to push it through. So it's not like there weren't enough people in the trials. There were enough people in the trials. As also the trials took for several months long. So I think if the coronavirus had any major side effect, if any of the vaccines had any major side effects, we would know about it by now, because it's been almost a year since it's been almost a year since they were even approved.
Yeah, you said you took the Sputnik, right?
Yeah, because I had two options: either the Sputnik or the Chinese one, the Sinopharm one. And I had a lot of bad things about the Sinopharm one. How it would you would produce very low antibody counts.
Oh,
so So if when I had only those two options, I wanted to go with the Sputnik because I know someone who is a scientific opinion I respect a lot, and he also got the Sputnik not because he chose the Sputnik, but it was what was available for him. So he
Right.
said because there was a lot of doubt about the Sputnik because it was also pushed through very quickly, but it in a way I in a weird way I trusted the Sputnik. Even though I lost my sense of smell and I had a fever, but I didn't have anywhere that big of a fever that I would have had with any seasonal usual serious seasonal illness. I would usually come down with an illness around maybe once a year, sometimes twice, and I would have a fever for a couple of days, and it was much less noticeable than at this time. So
My whole
even
house took Moderna, and yeah, we had a few people got sick here, but or one or two. I know my daughter did on the second shot, but I didn't have any sickness or issues with it personally, other than the fact that the injection site swelled up really bad, and my left arm became useless for a couple days. But I never had ran a fever or got sick.
My arm also was swollen. It hurt for a couple of days after each shot. So
Right.
I assume that meant high enough immune reaction that I was expecting my body to have a fairly good immunity, but I guess the vaccine was developed before the new variant was even
Delta.
discovered. So yeah, I'm pretty sure we were infected with the Delta variant because it's said to have a lot. It's said to be a lot more efficient at. So it can infect at a much lower viral dose.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and Leo said he had the sore arm each time. Yeah, my experience was the same. No other
that's the word I should have used. The sore arm. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I got
bit.
really sick on the next day. Just a bit of fever and lethargy and just feeling like garbage. And basically,
Yeah, I had
everybody that I know got those same symptoms on like the day after. Like
and what shot was that you took, Joe?
the Moderna.
Moderna. Okay.
I got the shot, the second shot, and then was able to come back and finish out my workday perfectly fine. Didn't feel the effects or anything. But then I woke up the next day and I was just done.
I had some coworkers that said the exact same thing. As a matter of fact, a couple of them had to take a couple of days off because they just said they couldn't get out of bed.
Well,
But
my middle child, who is immune compromised, was sick for like a week.
Right. Yeah, my daughter was sick for a while too. Again, she's also immunocompromised. So, yeah, it took her down a couple of steps for a little while. She ran some fevers and stuff, but ultimately came out okay on the other end of everything. So,
Well, that's why they don't want to give her the third shot, because they're afraid that the reaction will be worse for the third shot.
Yeah, well, if your immune system, is doing what it's supposed to, I said you're gonna have some pain, you're gonna have possibly some sickness. It's normal. It's good in a sense, And Leo says he also had lethargy, but he's always lethargic, so and can relate.
That's what the coffee's for.
I guess
just need some death wish.
I guess I don't even need to have the third shot because I had the virus itself.
Yeah, you should have a considerable amount of antibodies now between
but
the vaccine.
At least they open up
I
the Pfizer
I planned
for
to do an
5 to
antibody
11.
test at one point.
What was that?
I mean, if it was the Delta variant, then at least I should have more protection against that variant than with the vaccine only that was before that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, at least they opened up Pfizer for 5 to 11.
Oh, man. Well, that's not good, Clayton. I'd say that, I don't know. Not the way I'd want to go out personally. I mean...
Yeah, it's a tough way to pick.
Yeah, drowning in your own fluids. I mean, pneumonia, Yeah, that's a rough way to go.
I'm a bit concerned because I looked at the numbers and the number of registered deaths, COVID deaths this past week were almost double here in Hungary than the previous week.
Really?
So I did a little comparison. I might as well look up the chart. I did some charts because I would post them for people to see, and so the number of registered infections the week before this week was almost identical to number of registered that same week last year, but so it was around 20,000 registered. But I looked at the number of deaths that specific week. It was 237, but that same week of the year, 1 year ago, it was 300. Oh, it was 400. So 400, it went down from 400 to around 240, which is more than half, but it's still noticeably less than before the vaccine was around.
Right.
So I
And
might.
then there's a lot of controversy around how COVID death numbers are reported because a lot of people are
Dallas
saying that.
County residents only last week count. What is this? Probable cases.
Well, I
5 and cumulative 5,051. Prior week count 16, so it's down.
yes, but what's the population of the county?
Hold on.
Huge. Dallas area?
Population Dallas County. A lot.
Yeah, it's huge.
2.63 million.
Yeah, but was it 6 registered?
I'm
in the day?
looking. Because these numbers aren't exactly presented in such a way.
Yeah, our argument on the question is whether the numbers are correct. So, for example,
Okay, this is from March. 12 coronavirus deaths, 509 cases. But yeah, I don't like how the reporting is. It's extremely difficult to understand what they're posting here. Confirmed cases, Dallas County residents only. Total cases, Dallas County residents. Daily average count 7 days trailing 239, which is the prior week was 304. And
is it
then
registered?
this is total cases, yeah. And then
Cases.
cumulative 406,991. Confirmed cases, Dallas County residents only, 344,344. Probable cases, Dallas County residents only, 62,647. And deaths is 5. And the prior week's death was 16.
Did you say 200 and something for the weekly trading?
Say again?
Did you say 200 and something on per day?
And the 7 days trailing was 239.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's a bit weird because 200 with a population of around 9 million, we have had like 6 or 7, around 6,000. Well, I guess that's daily. Let me look at the weekly. I would say a couple thousand registered per day here. So that for 2 million or so people, that 200 sounds a bit odd.
Probably are doing a lot less testing here.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when the question of the legitimacy of the numbers come up, one of my two reasonings is that, okay, let's say that if it was twice as much, actually, that would still be a lot worse. But even if it was half of what it was, so for example, when the numbers were the highest last year in Hungary, I looked at that and I divided them by 2, and I thought that though that is still pretty high. So even if they were over reported and it was just half as much, it would still be significant. And I think the chances of the numbers being off by half as much, it's very low. So either way, I think the numbers would be very significant at that point. So if we consider either the extreme of having them twice as much or half as much, it's still significant. So in my opinion, there wasn't really any question of the numbers being too high.
And what's weird is COVID-19. Oh, that's from March, so that's not helpful.
So we're slowly transitioning to online learning at the university, not on the institute level, but various professors slowly start to bring up the possibility of having online lectures. So we're course by course we're transitioning. So it doesn't seem as bad as this time last year, but it's still numbers are still a lot higher than I really expected them to be. But then again, only half or so of the country is vaccinated so far. There were a lot of people being vaccinated, but after that it hit a plateau, the curve of people being vaccinated.
And
So
what is the reason for the people that aren't being vaccinated? Is there a lot of polarization in, say, your news media or anything like that?
So basically, with Hungary, I would say that the regions around the capital, and I'm not stating any political opinions. I'm only stating things that have been observed. So the areas around the capital, and especially the capital, seem to be very left-leaning, and the more rural areas are kind of leaning. So there definitely is a polarization.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. Because the current what's the word I'm looking for?
Okay, they're saying in Dallas County, this site, which is the New York Times, in the last 2 weeks we've had 187 deaths from COVID.
That's fairly low.
Surprisingly.
And I wonder
Yeah.
how those are being reported. If we're seeing out here that some people that are essentially, if you die and you have COVID, it's considered a COVID-related death, even though there may have been other factors at play, including other factors that may have been primary.
Yes, but the time of being infected is fairly short compared to the time window where you have the chance to die if you have another condition that raises your chance of dying. So if the person died during that small time window when they were infected, I think it's not reasonable to think that the virus had something to do with them having died.
Oh, certainly, but
So-
I mean to say
so-
it's exclusive to the COVID infection may be a bit disingenuous.
The reports were so every day, every weekday, the numbers are reported, and you also have a table where deaths are listed anonymously with their age and gender being stated and their underlying conditions. And for a time, they all, so for example, circulatory diseases and diabetes were very common among underlying conditions. But then there would be people who didn't seem to have any underlying conditions, but a lot of the underlying conditions seem to have been very generic. So most people nowadays die of either respiratory problems or circulatory diseases.
Cardiovascular.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
What did I say? Circulatory? Yeah,
No,
I guess
you're right. You're right.
okay.
Respiratory,
No, I mean,
cardiovascular.
yes,
That will work.
cardiovascular is so, and also cancer. But I'm not sure. Yeah, cancer could also be, for example, like leukemia and things.
Well, obesity
also.
is rampant, of course,
Yeah.
in America. I mean, that's obviously an
Well,
epidemic of its own, but
mhm,
that's certainly a
mhm,
massive
yeah.
contributor to not only diabetes, but to people being
Mhm,
vulnerable to these other, uh, uh, um, uh, like,
Everything.
secondary conditions. Yeah, everything,
mhm.
really.
Yeah, I think I've
But
seen
yeah,
one or two examples of the underlying condition being extreme obesity in that report that I mentioned. But I'm not sure if
right,
it
yeah.
was yes, but I'm not sure if it was that common because if someone had more obvious underlying conditions, they wouldn't really be bothered with their body weight is essentially. So
Yeah,
actually, let
it's really difficult
mhm,
because I mean, according to my medical doctor, well, when I had a primary care physician, I haven't for probably 3 years now because I can't seem to get into any doctors here. But yeah, according
mhm,
to their definition, I'm morbidly obese
mhm.
because of my weight, and they don't take into account your build per se. They don't
They
look if you're
only
kind of heavily
take into account
muscled or
BMI, your body mass
right,
index, which is a function of height and weight. So all of your
right,
bodybuilders, essentially, in the world, your actual like 2% body fat, 4% body fat
right.
bodybuilders
They're
are
obese,
considered morbidly obese. So BMI is not a good indicator of health.
Well, but
right?
it was a good indicator of me because I used to count as obese, but now I only count as overweight. So
Technically, I'm
it was
obese,
yeah.
but I also
So now
am.
mhm.
I think around 20, probably 23 to 26% body fat.
Right. And yeah, I think just it's a very inaccurate model.
So I quickly pulled up the number of disease the table, and for example, there's someone. It's a 75 years old, and so they really do right than anything that they can. But the most common seems to be high blood pressure, and not mm, not. I mean, it's also a cardiovascular disease, but it seems to be the most common.
Right. Hypertension.
Yeah,
Um,
but some
Hypertension,
of the yeah.
diabetes is an epidemic anymore in the U.S. I mean,
absolutely. Well, we were eating sugar-filled quick food. I mean, everything's got tons of sugar in it.
Yeah,
Everything. I mean,
sugar
there's
is
sugar in the
also
ground beef.
sugar is worse for you than fats.
Right. And
well, you
and
need a
it's
certain amount of
to your point,
fats in
Milo.
order to maintain your hormone levels in your body.
Mhm.
So you
Yeah.
have to have
Right.
fats.
Also, there are a couple of
Yes.
vitamins that are only soluble in fats. So
Right.
there's that. Mhm. Yeah, but it's also there are also entries that say like epilepsy and there's obesity. So yeah, there's one. There's a stroke. There's a morbidly obese. Uh, yeah, dementia. So I'm not sure if dementia to the level of dementia could contribute to dying from having infected with COVID. But I guess
Uh,
it's better to know all of the possible underlying diseases than not to not know them. So
right.
one of the lines says liver transplant. Uh, uh, so he received a liver.
Yeah.
It's stated as an underlying condition. Mm.
I actually got to see a live autopsy back when I was in college.
I
And
did too, and I
oh,
it
did you?
yeah yes yeah it I wouldn't say I recommend it for everyone. That it was it's certainly a mind-broadening experience.
No, that's for sure.
Mm.
And we also had
Yes.
a smart aleck that decided to break out a Snicker bar in the middle of it and start eating, and it caused one of the girls in
Mm.
the room to pass out.
What were the circumstances of you having been there at the autopsy?
Well, okay, so the gentleman that they were doing the autopsy on probably looked like he was in his mid 70s. He was actually only in his 50s, but he drank a fifth of whiskey every day,
Mm.
according to his neighbors. So the bone saw that they had used to crack his chest plate to cut into him they tried it on his liver, and it dinged like they were hitting a rock. It wouldn't even penetrate it. And
No, I mean,
at that point,
what were you studying that was? So how was it related to your studies?
criminal justice. I was actually
Oh,
looking
okay.
for a career in forensics, and unfortunately, I did not finish because I was young and dumb. And yeah,
I also
long
think
story.
any who medical students also doesn't matter what kind of medical doctor they want to be, even if they are going to be dentists. I think they have to at least attend the autopsy once. But it
Right.
wasn't mandatory for me. It was just an opportunity that I took because I was interested in it.
Yeah, and I mean it's certainly an experience. Like you said, I don't know. I'd recommend
Yeah.
it for everyone. There's certain smells that would
Yeah.
probably be off-putting the
Yeah, but
most.
it's also, I think the less I would say it's the least traumatic way to see a dead body for the first time, because I would argue that after that, if I was in a situation where I would be confronted with a dead body, I would be quicker to react and get myself together after having already seen a dead body before.
Right. Yeah, it takes some of the shock out of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's yes. Like I said, I speak too much and I should condense my sentences.
No. I get what you're saying. Much better than I could do in Hungarian, of which I know zero. Although I did have a neighbor that was of Hungarian descent, and it was interesting. His original family last name was Szegedi, and when
Sorry,
they
say that
came to
again.
America,
Your audio was cutting out.
oh sorry, his original last name Hungarian was Szegedi, and and when they came to America, they changed it to Smith. Now, boy, they couldn't have changed it to anything more generic.
Yeah, it's pronounced Szegedi, not Szegedi.
Szegedi.
But I'm not sure. Yeah, so basically, it means he's from the town of Szeged. So it doesn't really mean anything. It's just the name of the town. So
Right, okay.
yeah, I guess they could have just kept the name, because I guess the pool of last name is already very big in the US. So I think a lot of people just tend to keep their last name, which is fine.
I think this was at a time when they were trying to integrate with the American culture, and this may go back to more of the the racism that was rampant at the time. For instance, my last name is Thacker, which is a derivative of the last name Thatcher from England. Which, of course, would be a roof thatcher, but for whatever reason, they changed it to Thacker because they didn't want that. That stigma, I guess, to follow them around. I don't know.
Well, my last name literally means cook, so it's also a profession.
Oh, cook. Yeah.
Cook. Yeah, cook. Yeah, people don't really judge other people based on their last names anymore. Luckily.
Yeah, I think that's from a different time period.
Yes,
now
also, I'm only because it's different, because when you immigrate to a country, that your origins your name might indicate your origin, but when you're moving around the same country and all the names are in the same language, people don't really care about what your name is anymore, or what profession it might imply, or things like that.
Right.
Or any sort of adjective that it might be.
Yeah.
Hungarian is weird. We have a lot of words that only have the vowel e in them. So if you try hard enough, you could make whole sentences that don't have any other vowel, only the letter e. And of course, yeah. But the thing about vowels in our language is that a specific vowel has always the same pronunciation when it's written a word. So the letter e is pronounced as e. So could you have sentences with the same sounding vowels? So for example, let me try to make one of the sentences. So for example, if I wanted to say like, I I install this kernel, I put this kernel on this machine. Hungarian I could say feltettem a kernelt ezen szerkezetre. And it only has it doesn't have any other vowels than the letter E. So it's in Hungary it sounds very specific. The choices of words sound very specific because you do have to use some very rarely used words to get that effect. But the fact that the vocabulary is there is says a lot, and it's interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
It's
You know
almost
how
counter Dutch,
Yeah.
which has nothing but vowels and tons of them.
Sorry, what was it? The
Like in the Netherlands Dutch language, how many vowels they use. Language,
yeah.
it's almost like the opposite.
So there's the artificial language Esperanto.
Right.
Yeah. So based on this way of speaking Hungarian with only the letter E, they took the word Esperanto, they replaced all the letters with E, and they call it Esperante. with only the same sound. Yeah.
Just E.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, and with that, I think I'm going to be going now. It was very nice
Yeah, it's getting late.
speaking.
An hour and a
It's
half
our third-
later.
Pretty long.
It's our third
Yeah.
or fourth attempt after saying goodbye.
Yep.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
we'll call it there then. And thanks
Yeah.
for everyone who stuck around in the chat to listen to all our ramblings.
Catch y'all on Discord.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right,
Also,
guys.
Speak to you next week. Talk to you next
Yes,
week.
absolutely.
Sorry. Choice of words. Bye.
Nope.